Go ahead, Kat.
Alrighty, hey, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here tonight. My name is Kat Pasley, and I am a community organizer and faith-based leader headquartered here in Miami, Florida. And for the next 2 hours, we are going to have an incredible night together. I want to tell you who is coming on because you are going to want to stay for all of it. Tonight, we have Sara Nelson, president of the Flight Attendants Union. We have Saru Jaffer, who has spent her career fighting for tipped workers. We have Claire Valdez, who just won on a landslide, and Francesca from DSA National Political Committee. We have Hasan Piker, and I cannot tell you who the special guest at the end. Trust me, like I said, you definitely want to stay on. But here is why we are really here tonight. Florida's 25th district is one of the most important congressional races in the country right now. And the reason is simple. Jared Moskowitz is taking AIPAC money. He joined the Doge caucus while it was firing union contracts, and he is doing it all while calling himself a Democrat. We deserve so much better than that. And tonight, we're going to talk about who that better looks like. So before I bring him on, I want to ask you to pull up that donate link right now. It's on your screen. Even $5 tonight sends a message that this seat is not for sale. So let me go ahead and roll it on.
I'm a twice appointed Ron DeSantis Democrat, as my socialist opponent likes to point out.
Should there be any cuts to DHS or any defunding?
No, I don't support cuts to the agency. And I don't support defunding. If Israel makes an offensive action, the United States pledges to defend Israel. And so if that's what the Trump doctrine is on that, I think that would be satisfactory, that if Israel decides to go make a strike, that the United States will pledge to defend Israel from any Iranian response. So the Iran Revolutionary Guard should be deemed a terrorist organization. That's all that they do, quite frankly. There's no reason why that hasn't been named. This has come up previously before.
Would you be happy with Elon Musk or Rupert Murdoch owning TikTok?
Well, it's better than China. It's unacceptable for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We all say that it's unacceptable. But what are we willing to do? I'm a twice appointed Ron DeSantis Democrat, as my socialist opponent likes to point out.
Should there be any cuts to DHS or any defunding?
No, I don't support cuts to the agency. And I don't support defunding. If Israel makes an offensive action, the United States pledges to defend Israel. And so if that's what the Trump doctrine is on that, I think that would be satisfactory, that if Israel decides to go make a strike, that the United States will pledge to defend Israel from any Iranian response. So the Iran Revolutionary Guard should be deemed a terrorist organization. That's all that they do, quite frankly. There's no reason why that hasn't been named. This has come up previously before.
Would you be happy with Elon Musk or Rupert Murdoch owning TikTok?
Well, it's better than China. It's unacceptable for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We all say that it's unacceptable. But what are we willing to do about that? I think maybe more joint military exercises in the Middle East. I think showing maybe the Iranian regime the military capabilities we have in the Middle East by doing maybe some weapons tests out there. They need to understand what we're willing to do, and then we do the diplomacy. When I went to go work for Ron DeSantis for 2.5 years, I led the entire COVID response for the state of Florida, when I think we got COVID right more than any the other 49 states.
Listen, it is as bad as it can be, but it is not a concentration camp.
What I would like to see actually is a little tougher language coming out of the Trump administration. I'm to the right of this issue to the J.D. Vance Witkoff approach, and I agree, quite frankly, more with Senator Lindsey Graham and probably Senator Tom Cotton. If this initial strike convinces them of that, we should take that opportunity. But otherwise, the Israelis should continue to dismantle that. Any country that chants death to America cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. The next guy ain't going to do this.
I agree.
And Trump can't fall for it. Now, he's got people around him. I think Marco is leading him in the right direction. Vance sometimes concerns me because he's an isolationist. Trump's got to recognize it's him or nobody. I mean, that's where we're at when it comes to Iran. I have vast disagreements, obviously, with President Trump, but obviously we had some knowledge that this was going to happen, probably could have stopped it. U.S. presidents have that ability. President Trump let it go forward, and he got it right. It's interesting that the debate now is going on to defensive weapons, because for the longest time, the folks that were against offensive weapons said, but we're for protecting civilians, and that's why we're for continuing either funding for Iron Dome or other THAAD missile systems, things of that nature. Well, they're a U.S. ally, so long as you're a U.S. ally...
So the law doesn't apply?
What's that?
Does the law not apply to allies?
Well, our law applies, but, as long as they're an ally of ours, I'm not for conditioning weapons to Israel. Don't go into politics.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Do you have regrets?
Go to Wall Street.
Go to Wall Street. Yeah, be a finance
Go
bro.
to Wall Street. Yeah. Go to Wall Street. Go be a finance bro.
Yes.
Do cocaine for a couple of years. Get that out of your system. Yeah. That's what I would tell my 16-year-old
yourself
self.
with that.
I'm a twice appointed Ron DeSantis Democrat, as my socialist opponent likes to point out.
Should there be any cuts to DHS or any defunding?
No, I don't support cuts to the agency. And I don't support defunding. If Israel makes an offensive action, the United States pledges to defend Israel. And so if that's what the Trump doctrine is on that, I think that would be satisfactory, that if Israel decides to go make a strike, that the United States will pledge to defend Israel from any Iranian response. So the Iran Revolutionary Guard should be deemed a terrorist organization. That's all that they do, quite frankly. There's no reason why that hasn't been named. This has come up previously before.
Would you be happy with Elon Musk or Rupert Murdoch owning TikTok?
Well, it's better than China. It's unacceptable for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We all say that it's unacceptable, but what are we willing to do about that? I think maybe more joint military exercises in the Middle East. I think showing maybe the Iranian regime the military capabilities we have in the Middle East by doing maybe some weapons tests out there. They need to understand what we're willing to do, and then we do the diplomacy. When I went to go work for Ron DeSantis for 2.5 years, I led the entire COVID response for the state of Florida, when I think we got COVID right more than the other 49 states.
Listen, it is as bad as it can be, but it is not a concentration camp.
What I would like to see actually is a little tougher language coming out of the Trump administration. I'm to the right of this issue to the J.D. Vance Witkoff approach, and I agree, quite frankly, more with Senator Lindsey Graham and probably Senator Tom Cotton. If this initial strike convinces them of that, we should take that opportunity. But otherwise, the Israelis should continue.
Good evening, everyone. So this is what we're up against here in South Florida. A self-described Ron DeSantis Democrat joining Doge, voting for ICE, supporting the war with Iran as he is literally making money on the stock market, trading defense stocks. And right now in the state of Florida and in the United States of America, we're in a crisis of the Democratic Party's identity. Is this a party that is for working people? Or is this a party for the corporate and billionaire elite that are espousing the very same things that our current representative, Jared Moskowitz, is espousing? My name is Oliver Larkin, and this is exactly why we have to invest to win in Florida's 25th congressional district. In states like Florida and in states all across the country that the Democratic Party has counted out and left out, we, the working class, are standing up for ourselves, for our communities, and for our country. And that is exactly what brings me here to you today as a candidate in the Democratic primary for Florida's 25th congressional district. As a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, as a former union organizer who stood up and organized a union in my workplace, as a former Bernie Sanders campaign organizer who quit my job as a line cook making the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour to drop everything and drive to New Hampshire because we had a candidate speaking to the material needs of the American working class, Medicare for all, a living wage, college for all. We are still waging this fight a decade later, after 2 terms of Donald Trump, when we are currently in the midst of the worst income and wealth inequality that we've seen in the United States in a century. We're seeing Democratic candidates and Democratic Socialists in particular all across the country that are standing up for our communities, rejecting the corrupting influence of APAC, of AI, of cryptocurrency, of all special interest money, and fighting for Medicare for all, for a $25 an hour minimum wage, for universal child care, paid family and medical leave, and ending unconditional U.S. military aid to Israel that is going towards contributing to a genocidal apartheid regime as we enter another illegal war with Iran. It is time to bring our taxpayer dollars home. And don't for a second believe that this movement that we are building for democratic socialism, and for a country that truly reflects the needs of the working class is limited to just small pockets of the country. As Mayor Mamdani said on ABC News just yesterday, this movement is capable of winning anywhere in the United States of America. And in this district, in District 25, in Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade County, we're on the forefront of the Republican gains that they're making in the face of a milquetoast corporate establishment Democratic Party that once had Florida as a competitive state, but is now losing more and more ground. And it is up to us, the working class, the movement that we are building, to stand up and fight back and take our country back. That is exactly why we are all here today. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you that is pitching in with your time, with your contributions, with your donations, with your phone calls, with your door knocks, with sharing on social media. What we're building is a continuation of the movement that we saw in New York City, that we saw in Philadelphia, that we're seeing in races up and down the ballot all across the country. And I'm so grateful to be part of it with you in solidarity. This movement only goes as far as the next volunteer, as the next small dollar donor, as the next person willing to tell your friends, your family, your neighbor that a better world is in fact possible. It's possible in South Florida. It's possible in the United States of America. And so that is what is going to ground our discussion here tonight. I'm so grateful again for all of you. And as we advance towards the August 18th Democratic primary in the state of Florida, we're going to need every single one of you on our side, on the majority side, on the side of the working class. And solidarity to all of you. We'll be talking more as the evening goes on. And with that being said, I'm ready to hand it off to our first amazing panel. Thank you all so much.
How exciting. Well, Oliver, thank you so much. We cannot wait to hear more from you at 8:45. Now I'm bringing up the two people who are in this next panel. Claire Valdez, who just came off that landslide victory and who knows firsthand what it takes to go up against the establishment and come out on top. And Francesca, who serves on the DSA National Political Committee and has been thinking deeply about what a bigger progressive bloc in Congress actually makes possible. Claire and Francesca, so glad you are both here tonight. Get us started.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So excited to be here with you all. Calling in from Ridgewood, Queens, but also proudly repping my main DSA swag, because our movement is not just a national movement, but it's international, and the success of every single chapter and every single campaign that we run builds on the next one. We just saw a landslide victory here in New York City, where not just myself and Daria Lisa, but downstate candidates in New York City won elections against entrenched establishment candidates, won against huge amounts of PAC spending against socialists. And by organizing, by knocking literally hundreds of thousands of doors across New York City, we're able to tell our neighbors, talk to our neighbors about the world that we deserve, about a program in which Medicare for all, unions for all, housing for all, ending forever wars, and material support for genocide in Gaza are available to us when we organize as the working class. It's a really beautiful moment in New York City. And I think, as was already said, we want to demonstrate that this is not some fluke. This is not just about deep blue seats. This is about an entire movement of working class people who know that we can demand so much more. So I'm really happy to be here. And happy to be here with Francesca too. Amazing NPC members coming out to support our candidates.
Hi, everyone. My name is Francesca, and on top of being a member of DSA's National Political Committee, I am also a member of DSA's Philadelphia chapter, which in November will be sending a Democratic Socialist to Congress for the first time, Representative Chris Rabb. And Rep. Rabb won not despite, but because, just like Oliver, he ran on a strong anti-war and anti-Zionist platform. A platform that recognizes the right of self-determination of Palestinians, the right of return under international law of Palestinian refugees, and an end to all US regime change wars. So this victory means a lot to me personally, because I have spent the last 3 years organizing against the ongoing genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. And I will never forget the racism, the dehumanization, the complacency that we were met with by our elected officials, Republican and Democrat alike. So we spent 2023, 2024, and 2025 telling every politician who equivocated on genocide, who took millions in checks from the war industry, who sent the police to brutalize student protesters, that we were going to take them out. And 2026 is the year that we make sure on that promise. So in just the past month, DSA endorsed candidates like Chris Rabb, Claire Valdez, Daria Lisa Villa-Chevalier, won their primaries for Congress, together with dozens of candidates for local and state government all across the country. And we're just getting started. So I'm very excited to be here tonight and to work to elect Oliver in Florida.
Super fantastic to have you both. I guess one really good rolling question. We've heard from Jared and how he's an absolute horrible of a candidate. And we know a lot about why Oliver is amazing for this position. Can you tell us a little bit more of what it took to get you, especially Claire, in the seat that you're in, and what it will take for Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like my race in New York City and New York 7 and Queens and Brooklyn really demonstrated the DSA difference. We knocked on over 300,000 doors across Queens and Brooklyn. We mobilized over 4,000 volunteers to phone bank, to canvass. And our grassroots donation effort was well over 22,000 individual donors. That's a movement. And DSA was an integral part from the very beginning when I launched my campaign, and making sure that we had, Democratic buy-in to this campaign, that the chapter was excited to elect not just a DSA member, but someone who'd been the membership coordinator for the chapter for many years and helped to build this organization over the last 7 years. And so having somebody like Oliver, who has also been in the trenches of this Democratic organization, fighting for his, fellow Democratic Socialists, rank and file members, also fighting to organize his workplace. That's exactly what it's going to take to get across the finish line when we're up against tons of money, lots of PAC money, APAC, AI, crypto, who even knows what this dark money could be. But people power can absolutely win the day. And when we have organizers who are ready to kind of like pound the pavement and get people excited, what we're showing is that the Democratic Party and the Democratic establishment also can't beat us. And I think what's been really exciting to see in the election from last week is that we are the future of American politics, that the working class is hungry for an alternative, that the working class is hungry for lives of real dignity, and that this message resonates at the doors. So what it's going to take is people power, and the good news is that the wind is at our backs, that the tides are turning, that people are not interested in sending money abroad to fund a genocide when we don't even have healthcare at home. People understand that really deeply now. People are hurting right now in our country, and have broad recognition that international solidarity and cooperation is the future, and are ready to fight for exactly that. So it's going to take a lot to get there, but organized people beats organized money, and we can win.
That's right. People power. So if you guys are seeing the thermometer go up, make sure that you're donating, that you're sharing the donate link. If you're ready to put your feet to the pavement and knock on doors, definitely reach out to the campaign, and let's get Oliver Larkin. And Francesca, talk to us a bit about what it's like to endorse Oliver in this particular way. What does it mean, not just for here in Florida, but just across the nation?
Yeah, absolutely. So Oliver was our first national endorsement. We were extremely excited, not only because, like I mentioned earlier, he's running on a really strong anti-war, anti-ICE, pro-life, anti-corporate money platform, but also because this is a candidate like Claire who came up through DSA, who is deeply involved in our movement, who's deeply committed to our movement, who is really involved in his chapter, who is collaborating with DSA chapters all over Florida. And so this is what it means for us to build a real alternative to the status quo. And I think that that's what DSA is doing and demonstrating all over the country. We're not winning just because we're good at knocking doors. I mean, that's a very important part of it. But we're winning because we're offering a real alternative to a status quo that is absolutely intolerable. It is intolerable to see every day for 3 years streams of bodies just lacerated by US-made bombs and funded by our tax dollars. It's intolerable that if you leave your home and you walk in your city, you see people sleeping on the street while corporate landlords are making millions. It is completely intolerable that we see people across the world forced to leave their homes because of climate change, because of war, because of dictatorships that are backed by the US. They travel thousands of miles looking for a chance to survive just to be kidnapped and sent to rot in an ICE concentration camp. So people are recognizing that we cannot accept this anymore. We cannot live like this. People are tired of this politics of mass death. They're tired of the bipartisan consensus that accepts that the murder of millions of people is not just inevitable, but it is desirable because it makes their stocks go up, because it makes money for Palantir and Lockheed Martin and Chevron. And what the DSA is offering is a politics of life. What Oliver Larkin and all of our candidates are offering is a socialist politics that is saying that all human beings are born equal with the same dignity, with the same right to a home and food and a life free from war and exploitation. And people recognize that truth. People recognize that this is a truth worth struggling for, worth chipping in $5, worth spending our free time after work knocking doors for, worth dedicating our life to. And so that's what it means to struggle together with Oliver, with all of our candidates, and with all of our chapters that are doing this work day in and day out all across the country. So if you're not a DSA member yet, today is a great day to join, and you get to get more involved in supporting campaigns like Oliver's. There are over 110,000 of us all across the country, and every day we're knocking doors, we're sending texts, we're phone banking, we're raising money to elect socialists all over the country. So together, we're going to elect Melat Kiros in Colorado tomorrow. We're going to re-elect Cori Bush in Missouri, and we're going to elect Oliver in Florida in August.
I know that's right. Thank you so much, Claire and Francesca. You both have been super amazing. And I'm super excited about this next block because these two women are absolute forces. To follow up also these two amazing women. Sara Nelson is the president of the Association of Flight Attendants, AFACWA, and one of the most powerful labor leaders in the country. And Saru Jayaraman leads One Fair Wage and has dedicated her life to ending the sub-minimum wage that keeps tipped workers from making a real living. They are both here because they know that Oliver represents for working people, and I cannot wait to hear from them. So Sara, kick us up.
Looks like Sara can't hear, maybe.
It's cool. Nothing like a little technical bug in the middle of a race to show that we're alive and kicking. How about you, Sara?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Thanks for having me. Did you want me to talk a little bit about the work, Kat?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the work and tell us about why Oliver, why now?
Okay. Sara, can you hear us now? Okay, do you want to go first? Okay. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Sara Jayaraman. I am the co-founder and president of One Fair Wage. We're a national organization representing the 13.6 million restaurant workers across the United States who, work every day to serve us food, but unfortunately are the lowest paid workers in America, in part because of a sub-minimum wage that keeps them at $2.13 an hour. But I'm really excited to report that we have come together with unions and worker organizations across the country to launch a new big national campaign called Living Wage for All, fighting to raise the minimum wage to at least $25 an hour anywhere in the U.S., which is the least you need to live anywhere in the U.S., and 30 in higher cost regions like California and New York and Hawaii. And I'm excited to report that we now have a bill that's been introduced in the House and about 30 co-sponsors in the House called the Living Wage for All Act, and is being introduced in the Senate as well by Senator Chris Murphy. So really, really excited. It is the first time in U.S. history that we're talking about a minimum wage this high that actually gets closer to the cost of living. Doesn't exactly meet the cost of living, but it gets closer. And first time we're talking about ending all sub-minimum wages, not just tipped workers, workers with disabilities and youth, but even incarcerated workers, everybody who's been left out forever, that they get included. So why Oliver, why now? Because I need Oliver to get into Congress. And like Rashida Tlaib said on Thursday and today at our press conference, I need this to be HR 1. This has to be the first bill that Democrats pass when they take over the Congress. And that is why? Because I have to tell you something. Last April, there was a series of articles that came out in USA Today documenting a rumor video that the right was circulating among MAGA voters saying that Donald Trump had already raised the federal minimum wage to $25 an hour, which of course was a lie. He hasn't done anything. But the fact that the right is agitating their base about 25, not 15, not 17, not 18, they're agitating about the number that people actually need. It's really important that if somebody, on the other side, I won't even say Democrats, but pro-democracy forces, when they take over, if they take over, they can't just talk about things like 25. They have to deliver on things like 25. And so we need Oliver to get in there, and alongside Rashida and alongside Ana Lilia and Chris Rabb and everybody else, make this HR 1, deliver on the affordability crisis by paying people a living wage.
You heard first, so that all of himself, just what Sara was saying, donate as 25 if you want the federal minimum wage to be 25. But I don't know about y'all, 25 in Miami don't make it, so you might as well start donating 40, so we could be at 40. That's just me being hopeful. So thank you so much. I'm not sure, Sara, if you're back and want to chime in here.
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. So I'm super excited to be here tonight. Thank you so much. Oliver, I got to give props to you for standing up and running. And of course, you've been doing that ever since you found any bit of injustice anywhere. You have stood up and tried to make it better. And you are not only my brother in the working class, but you're my brother in CWA. With News Guild, and it's pretty extraordinary that you organized your own union with the campaign workers. And I gotta say, who needs a voice more than campaign workers when we gotta be able to let people know who are in power when they're screwing up, when they're not saying the right things, when they're not connected to the people. And so that background is super important, but what's really important here is what Sara was talking about. This is really about billionaires trying to squeeze everything out of the working class. And if we don't start talking to the working class and start making the working class the agenda for our politics, then we are going to slide further and further into fascism. And I want to be really clear. A lot of people will say this district or this state is not winnable. Well, I say bullshit to that because there's working people there who have the same needs as someone who's sitting in a blue or purple district. And the reality is that it is taking the Democratic Socialists of America to bring this message to the forefront, because for too long, leaders have been looking behind them to see if people are following them and failing to look ahead and see the people are way out in front. And the people are way out in front because capitalism has been a rubber band that has been stretched too far. taking more and more from the working class every chance it gets. That is its entire purpose. And the only check on that is unions. The only check on that is the working class standing together and demanding more. And I want to be really clear. When I say unions, I mean everyone that Sara represents. I mean every single person who is a part of this labor movement, who wants a union card, who wants a better life, who wants to deliver on the promise of what this country was supposed to be. So tonight, I wear my Deb's pin to say that work matters everywhere. It matters for the incarcerated. It matters for those who are in detention. It matters for those who they are seeking to put in detention. It matters for every single person who they are trying to demoralize by making life horrible and making us believe that we can't expect the best, that we can't enjoy our lives and have a good living and have hope for a better future for our children. So the last thing I'll just say is that we cannot be afraid of robots. The billionaires want us to be afraid of robots. They want us to be afraid of technology. That's ours. It's our time, our money, our innovation, created by the working class, driven by the working class, delivered by the working class, healed by the working class. And the working class, as Mayor Mamdani reminded us just a few weeks ago, is the only majority in this country. And if we take that in and understand the power that we have, come out for Oliver, and yes, donate to Oliver, knock for Oliver, vote for Oliver, call for Oliver, we can have one more person speaking sanity about the people who need to be represented in the halls of Congress. Proud to stand with you, Oliver. Thank you for standing up. Super excited to be sitting here with Kat and with Saru, supporting you tonight, but saying to everyone out there that this isn't a fight for Oliver. This is Oliver standing up to make sure that we can all fight for ourselves together. So we're in it with you all the way, Oliver. Keep going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sara and Saru. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling pumped up, and we're almost at that halfway goal. So let's make it to 10K. Before we even get into this next session, I know we can do it. Just like Sara said, we're fighting for our democracy, and Oliver is a representation right now of that democracy that we're all fighting for. Thank you both so, so much. This next person is someone I consider like a mentor to me, especially as we know, Florida public service workers are on the biggest chopping block, and Florida public service unions have been like under attack heavily. And so we're going to be talking to Afifa Khalik from FPSU, and she has a very important announcement to make. So Afifa, it's so great to see you. Oh no, my mentor's on mute. As I know she gets those technical things together. Oh wait.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Is it good? Okay. All right. It took only a couple of minutes. So yeah, technology is our friend. Hey everyone, my name is Afifa Khalik. I'm proud to represent SEIU Florida Public Services Union, 20,000 public sector workers who what we say are hidden faces of public services, right? So you will know they exist when you can't flush your toilet, when the garbage is not picked up, when there's a storm and there's like, flooded streets and stuff, right? So then you will know that we exist. Or these are food service workers, these are cafeteria workers, your lunch ladies, our beloved custodians, and everyone in between that we represent. Here is like one message to everybody who is donating right now. I would say that people in the South are so effed with the democracy that we have in this country right now, where everybody benefit from the struggle and resistance of the South, but nobody wants to invest in the South, right? That's where you put nations, Black and brown people, to die. And it's horrible to see it's happening. And when there are messages that are thrown out there in by our national Democrats that South and especially Florida does not have any hope, right? So we say no to that BS. Absolutely, we in Florida are the biggest resistance force, and we have been resisting forever against these attacks, and we are able to survive. These workers deserve champions in the Congress who are from the South and can represent the South, and they are not on the bandwagon and talking points of like these rich, greedy corporations, right? So that's first and foremost. So we are at SEIU Florida Public Services Union very proud to announce our endorsement for my brother Oliver Larkin. And this is fresh off the press, fresh off the boat, right? So we're super happy and excited about this, right? And here is the reason why. Florida has the worst affordability crisis. We spend 58 to 60% of our income on housing alone, and then you top that on an estate where there is no public transportation infrastructure. Then the gas prices. Everybody needs to own a car in Florida, right, to drive to the work. There's the public infrastructure does not exist, and we have politicians who call themselves DeSantis Democrats. And that is completely unacceptable. DeSantis have the worst track record when it comes to working class families in Florida. So he has spent money on his corporate campaign donors and found projects such as Culture Wars or Alcatraz for them to invest in so that they can benefit from my tax money, right? So somebody who says that they are DeSantis Democrat, it's a horrible slap on the working class families and their claim that they represent us, right? So that's not happening. And we say no to that BS too. We have taken a very bold stance, and we have like gone against that incumbent against Jaron Maskovich to endorse Oliver Larkin. And fun stories before all of those who are on this call. I had a very quick conversation with Oliver, my first talk with Oliver. And I asked him, I said, give me a 30-second pitch, the elevator pitch on why we should select you as a candidate, right? And I was super impressed by how clear he is in his vision for working class families and how he represents the working class families. Very bold stance. So obviously there was like no question, no doubt when we talked to our members about this endorsement. They were like completely sold by Oliver Larkin. We do not have to do any push. We do not have to convince them. Oliver's stance and his vision was selling point enough for our members to realize like who is the champion in who is going to be the champion in Congress for them. So SEIU Florida Public Services Union, we stand behind Oliver Larkin, and everybody who is donating today, please donate for the Black and Brown resistance movement in South, not just for Oliver, but because resistance is alive. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Afifa, and thank you for everyone that did so far. We're almost halfway there. This is going to be my last introduction before I hand it on over to Hasan and Austin, who will be taking over from here. It has been a super pleasure. As someone who has just been redistricted into Oliver Larkin's district, I am an excited voter, organizer, and friend and neighbor. So until next time.
All right. Is it our turn now? Thank you,
Let's
Kat.
do it.
All right. Thank you, Kat, for the introduction. Real honor to be here with Oliver. We were early on trying to promote Oliver when he was chasing down Moskowitz in the original district before the redistricting scheme came about. And I feel like now there's an even better opportunity for Oliver to make an impact. I know that there was an early poll that came out today showing Moskowitz at 67% and Oliver at 33%. But with a limited amount of name recognition, it's really important for all of you guys to obviously keep fundraising, considering that this is a campaign that's powered by grassroots, that's accountable to grassroots, and nothing else, obviously. And there's probably going to be a lot of big money flowing into this race for the Moskowitz camp. From the Moskowitz camp. And I mean, I feel like the Republicans on the opposing side, regardless of this district, now being a dummy mander district, to use a term that Hakeem Jeffries has used, is not going to be as significant of a battle, in my opinion. I think Moskowitz probably will be a tougher hill to climb, especially considering that your values and the values of democratic socialism, these universal principles that we're upholding, are across the board exciting for people. We saw this major defeat with Kamala Harris running to the center, pivoting to the center, and basically presenting a MAGA light version to the American public broadly, lose once again. And Moskowitz is maybe not even a MAGA light, but instead more so just MAGA with a D next to his name. So very excited to be here. Very excited to talk to you, Oliver. How are things going? Tell me about Florida 25.
Yeah, so the new 25th district, and first of all, it's great to have you on, Hasan. Thank you for supporting our race and really supporting Democratic Socialist candidates all across the country. We're seeing a wave that is not restricted to one state or city or congressional district. It's happening all across the country right now. And what this opportunity provided with redistricting, extending now down into Miami-Dade County. From the very start of this campaign, we've talked about this being a joint project of our DSA chapter, and now we are pulling the entire Democratic Socialist movement in South Florida together. Miami DSA, Broward DSA, Palm Beach Treasure Coast DSA. Every single one of us has skin in the game now with representing the Tri-County area. And what we're seeing across South Florida, really across the state and across the South, is a wholesale rejection of the Republican Party's attacks on the working class, the anti-union efforts that have been passed in Tallahassee, the expansion of the ICE terror regime, the detention and deportation agenda, which we are really the nexus of with the corporate headquarters of Geo Group, the private prison corporation in Boca Raton, as well as now the corporate headquarters of Palantir in the new 25th district in the city of Aventura. And as we see, not just Republican politicians, and one of my Republican opponents, Scott Singer, who ran ads in Times Square after Zoran was elected mayor of New York City. Scott Singer, the former mayor of Boca Raton, serving ads to say, hey, you're fleeing the wealth tax. Why don't you come down to Boca Raton? We're seeing this on both sides of the aisle. With our opposition, Jared Moskowitz in the primary, and these Republicans that really are offering no meaningful difference when it comes to standing up to ICE or opposing U.S. support for genocide and apartheid. There's a two-party duopoly and a corporate establishment that contributes to and funds both of them. That is just being wholesale rejected by the working class, where it has never been harder to get by, to afford your gas, your rent, your groceries. We're seeing now, for the first time in several years, people are actually leaving Miami-Dade County and moving out elsewhere because South Florida is so incredibly unaffordable to live here. So this presents an incredible opportunity for us. When we hear Democrats like Jared Moskowitz try to moderate and cater to the right, because that is what they perceive is going to win over non-party affiliated voters. When I talk to independent voters, when I talk to disaffected Democrats, when I talk to Republicans, we're rejecting the corrupt corporate establishment. We're rejecting the corruption of the congressional stock trading, where we have insider traders like Jared Moskowitz that are literally personally profiting from the death, destruction, and genocide that we're perpetuating with our support for Israel, but also with our own war in Iran right now. Voters are ready for something different. They're ready for someone who's actually going to fight for the working class of this country, to give young people some hope. As someone who has really lived their entire life under the thumb of this, $2 trillion spent on foreign wars. Someone who has seen, as so many people watching this have, the American dream that we were raised to believe in is inaccessible for so many of us as we're minting Elon Musk, the world's first trillionaire. And we have Jared Moskowitz, the very first Democrat in the United States Congress to join Doge. If you want to see a change here, then I'm asking every single person watching this to chip in, to contribute at the link, and help us hit this $20,000 goal. Help us go beyond that tonight, because it is going to take every single dollar of grassroots support to go up against APAC, the AI industry, the cryptocurrency, everyone that has a vested interest in keeping milquetoast corporate establishment Democrats like Jared Moskowitz in office. This is exactly who we're taking on. And don't believe for a second that it's not possible in South Florida. What we're seeing is a movement unlike anything South Florida has ever seen. And we're going to carry it through to August 18th to win this primary. And we're going to send another Democratic Socialist to join Assemblymember Claire Valdez and so many other DSA candidates in Washington, D.C.
Oliver, I have questions for you. So in your experience, you've been up and down now in different parts of these two different districts that are not super different from one another. But when you go out there and you talk to the voters, likely voters, independents, these mythical moderate voters that are maybe never really voting for the Democratic Party, and you tell them your quote unquote radical agenda of ending unnecessary wars, like how do they react? Because I assume Neera Tanden says all the time that they probably react in horror, right? And they say, no, I would like to give billions of dollars to both Israel and also melt another billion every day, waging war with Iran, right? And I love that my gas prices are high. I feel patriotic paying them, or is there a different reaction when they hear your perspective?
Yeah, people are so tuned out of politics as usual that most people have just trained themselves not to pay attention. And I think that's the way that members of Congress like Jared Moskowitz like it. And so there's a real, I think, almost a shock and then a relief when we tell people what our agenda is, that we're actually fighting for Medicare for all, for a $25 minimum wage, for universal childcare. One conversation in particular just sticks so clearly in my mind. I was in a working class neighborhood canvassing in Broward County, and a mom opened the door, and her 3 or 4 year old daughter was playing behind her. And as I said why I was canvassing, and I had my DSA button on, my campaign shirt, and I said that I'm running against the only Democrat in Florida who voted for the Laken Riley Act, who gave all of this power to ICE, and someone who's taken nearly $1 million from APAC. She was literally tearing up, saying, I don't understand how I can look at my daughter and see someone else's child locked up in Dilley Detention Center in Texas. I don't see how I can look at my daughter and know that my taxpayer dollars are going towards tearing children limb from limb in Gaza. And I think it's so visceral for so many parents that are they're watching Miss Rachel with their children, and they're really seeing the horror, as it's so hard to afford childcare, as it's so hard to afford rent, as it's so hard to afford public transportation, and the stress that people live with. And then they see what our taxpayer dollars are contributing to. There's a just extreme disgust, and I think that's exactly why so many people have tuned out. But we have a congressman who doesn't show up for town halls. We have someone who doesn't go door to door. So when we do that, the power that lends to our movement, the legitimacy it lends, just by being willing to show up and listen. I mean, the word is representative. The word is representative, and that means showing up and representing the people that you want to speak to. And at these No Kings protests as well, I mean, it's not just Democrats turning out to these things. It's non-party affiliated voters, it's Republican voters. And this is really what is inspiring people, that a new kind of politics is possible. We have such an amazing opportunity right now in Florida. And you mentioned the two districts and some of the polling that we've done. What I also want to highlight is that when we polled this 25th district, 86% of Democratic primary voters, but also 68% of general election voters, Republicans, non-party affiliated, and Democrats, want to see the United States stop this unconditional military aid to Israel, where we are sending, and there's going to be another vote in Congress this week, billions of our taxpayer dollars towards an occupation in Lebanon, where 1 million people or more have been displaced, where we are once again overcommitting ourselves militarily in support of what is a Jim Crow regime. And I think we refer to it as apartheid because we don't want to reckon with our own history in the United States, that the racial segregation, the two-tiered system of justice, is really originating from the very soul of our country that we're still working to rectify to this day. And I feel a tremendous responsibility as a candidate running in the South to finish this work of reconstruction and to connect these struggles. When Black and brown Floridians are being dispossessed and disenfranchised, we need to connect these struggles to what our taxpayer dollars are doing overseas. And increasingly, with this cost of living and affordability crisis, voters can no longer separate foreign and domestic policy. The cat is out of the bag, and no matter what Neera Tanden or Third Way or Josh Gottheimer might want to believe, people understand now that these struggles are interconnected, and the solidarity of this movement is exactly what the Democratic Socialist of America is delivering, and why we're seeing so much incredible momentum across the country.
Yeah, there was a new poll that just came out that showed, with the exception of Barack Obama, the top 3 most popular politicians across the board in the United States of America were all Democratic Socialists, or socialists in general. You had Bernie Sanders, Zohran Mamdani, and AOC in the top 3. And I think this is precisely what a lot of establishment Democrats are terrified of. As I've said before, they're not worried that Zohran was going to win and then fail and then be used as an example for the rest of the country. They were worried that he was going to win and succeed and govern well and have good governance be associated with democratic socialism. And then other people were going to demand similar politicians. Well, we have a similar politician here with Oliver, right? It's been wonderful seeing other candidates from New York City DSA like Claire come in and show support as well, because this movement is not about popular figures. This is a people-backed movement. This is a working class movement, and it's about uplifting. It's about centering the working class, but then it's also about delivering for the working class, something that I think the Democratic Party unfortunately has failed to do for far too long. We've also reached $20,000 in the fundraising goals just now while you were talking. So congratulations to everybody that donated. Thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that you ran a poll early in the previous district that you were in. And now one of the things that you found out was that in an informed ballot, you were actually defeating Moskowitz 51-33. So how do we make sure that virtually every single person in Florida 25 gets to know your policies and gets to hear about Moskowitz's policies? How do we get you across the finish line that way, Oliver?
Yeah, it's these donations, and that contributes directly towards our on-the-ground organizing. And just to set the terms of this evening for folks, tomorrow is our last end-of-quarter FEC fundraising deadline of this primary election. Our election is on August 18th. We are, believe tomorrow, 7 weeks away from our primary. So we are so incredibly close. Ballots are being mailed out in a matter of less than 2 weeks. So we need to start our advertising immediately. Like, we need to start our advertising tomorrow if we have the resources to do it. And that is what your donations are going towards. When we are spending thousands of dollars printing the campaign literature that our volunteers are walking up someone's driveway every single day to deliver, all of this work costs money. And as someone who grew up in organizing and really got my political start going door to door, these are some of the easiest conversations, I have to be honest with you, that I've ever had. I was expecting, maybe a dead heat. Maybe one door is a strong supporter. Maybe the next door is a strong supporter of the incumbent. In 15 seconds, you say, I'm running against the first Democrat in Congress to join DOJ, the only Democrat in the state of Florida to vote for the Larkin-Riley Act, and someone who describes himself as a Ron DeSantis Democrat. People look at you like you're an alien from outer space and say, wait, that's a Democrat? And the support just immediately gravitates towards us. In that poll that we ran in the old district, we started out at down 45 to 11% on the positives, just on the positives. So I don't even want to center this too much, although Congressman Moskowitz's record is abhorrent for a Democrat in office. But when people hear that there is a former Bernie Sanders campaign organizer, someone who organized a union in their workplace and is fighting for Medicare for all, for $25 an hour, for universal child care, and ending U.S. support for genocide and apartheid, that alone reaches our support way ahead of Moskowitz. We jump up 38% in the polls. We take 20% of his support. And then our support grows even more because the Democratic Socialists of America label is not hurting us. Fox News, Newsmax, the National Review, they've all been freaking out in the past week because of what Claire and so many DSA members were just able to achieve in New York City, that now they're calling me a socialist and they're saying, should Jared Moskowitz be worried? How far is this movement going to go? And it's going to go as far as you're able to contribute to fund our voter outreach, to fund our advertising. Again, it has to start now. So the same way that when I went on your stream, Hasan, back in March, and I said, change the math in this race. In one day, we were able to raise $75,000. And you know what we were able to do? We were able to hire a communications team. We were able to hire an operations team. We were able to actually mobilize this campaign. It's not going towards, some DC consultant that's going to sit on their ass and give us half-baked ideas from a think tank. It's going directly into our organizing. And frankly, nights like this wouldn't have been possible had we not been able to build the infrastructure. So the proof is in the pudding. The fact that your chat and the Hasanabi heads and everyone that's contributing right now, the fact that tonight is possible means that a victory on August 18th is also possible. So I cannot emphasize enough how important the donations are, but also the volunteering. And we have folks sharing the volunteer link in our chat. Come door to door with me, come phone bank with us and talk to these voters because, again, this is a closed primary state. Only Democrats can vote in this primary. So these are friendly conversations with friendly people that are looking for some hope and some change. And, what we've seen at these No Kings protests, people are cheering for democratic socialism. When people see what Mayor Mamdani is able to accomplish in New York City, and they see Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez traveling the country fighting for us, this is the Democratic Party that they want to see, and it's not restricted to one locale. It is in Florida. It is in Colorado with Malat Quiros. It is everywhere across the United States of America.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as far as your conversations in the district with people goes, what's the attitude overall on, endless American militarism, especially considering that there are many poorer parts of this district as well? There's an affordability crisis that you are talking about here. How do they respond when they hear your position? Are they shocked? Do they call you an anti-Semite, or are they like, well, I agree with that, actually, when you say that Israel's committed a genocide and Moskowitz is one of the biggest defenders of Israel, so much so that he's actually outflanked, by his own admission, Marco Rubio, even at times. How is the attitude overall from people on this issue?
It's incredibly receptive. I mean, again, people are connecting our foreign military expenditures overseas with the cost of living crisis that is proximate and right in front of us every single day. When we have the county of Palm Beach within our district, the largest single municipal investor in Israel bonds, with $1 billion invested at the same time that they're cutting bus routes for seniors with disabilities and college students at FAU, when Florida Atlantic University, which is led by Adam Hasner, a former Florida Republican House Majority Leader who was plucked from being GEO Group, the private prison corporation's executive vice president of public policy. Jared Moskowitz literally wrote the personal letter of recommendation to install him. And what did Florida Atlantic University do? They became the largest public university investor in Israel bonds with $8.2 million invested. Miami-Dade County has over $100 million invested in Israel bonds. We see all around us the lack of affordable housing, the cuts to public transportation, the fact that it's nearly impossible to find affordable childcare in South Florida. And then we see what our taxpayer dollars are going towards, not just the United States government, but our state government, our municipal governments, our universities. It is unavoidable. And not to dumb it down too much, but people, regardless of their background, we just don't like to see genocide. We don't like to see our taxpayer dollars going towards slaughter, especially with the memory of what the last 25 years of this country's history have been with these foreign military entanglements overseas and supporting theocratic regimes. It's not just Israel, it is Saudi Arabia, it is, the dictatorships that the United States uses to be able to extract resources from these regions and to be able to have their our military bases hosted overseas. But then we get into these entanglements. Jared Moskowitz and Josh Gottheimer give the permission slip to Donald Trump to take us to war with Iran, as Jared Moskowitz has purchased Lockheed Martin stock 4 times, which hit an all-time high on the market after he said Rokan and Thomas Massey's War Powers Resolution was the Ayatollah Protection Act. So again, there's an element of personal profit at play here that voters pick up on. So I've not encountered any resistance that you might believe, or that AIPAC might have you think would just be meeting a candidate like myself with. Anytime I go door to door or have a town hall, people are showing up because of this bold stance that we're taking, and I think it's a mark of the courage and authenticity that we need from more members of Congress, that the reception has been this warm.
Yeah. I think that the reason why I keep asking you these questions is because, well, one, you guys need to keep donating 100%, because getting the message out is the most important part of this puzzle, because you already have the policies, you have the fundamentals, you have a team that is ready to go out and door knock. Obviously, it needs to be larger, but part of the equation for me is that my theory for change, that I know you share as well, is that these policies that we are all advocating for are ones that not only help the working class everywhere, but they're also objectively popular everywhere. It's just that people don't have confidence because they've never heard someone genuinely speak to them in a language that they understand, genuinely tell them that a better future is possible. Whereas I feel like for the most part, Democrats like Moskowitz and many other do-nothing Democrats all around the country have destroyed the confidence that the American working class destroy the confidence that they have in good governance, destroy the confidence that they have in the Democratic Party. They have developed tremendous apathy amongst the base of support. So getting you in front of as many people as possible and trying to get you more media coverage as well is probably one of the primary things we got to do. We have to nationalize this race, especially because, let's be real, a lot of the national organizations, they're much more comfortable working in like deep blue districts. Even many of them still shy away from taking out incumbents. Usually, some of them shy away from that. There are other organizations that don't shy away from taking out incumbents and changing them. But even then, they're a little bit worried about, like, once they see +9 Trump or a red state, they usually don't want to push as hard. And the same problem exists for the Democratic Party as well. The Democratic Party broadly doesn't even offer its centrist candidates in red districts and in the South enough support. But there is a real opportunity here to make that change. And if they're not going to do it, we're going to do it for ourselves, right? We're going to do it for the district. We're going to do it for this movement, and we're going to continue building on the successes that we've seen, not just in New York City. Because for the longest time, they said, oh, this stuff doesn't work. Voters don't want it, right? And then Zoran got elected, and they were like, oh, he only got elected, but by not such great margins, and in a deep blue area like New York is +59 Kamala Harris State and +56 Kamala Harris City. It doesn't matter, all this stuff. And now there's an impact being made with Bernie-crats, like even Graham Plattner in Maine. Now, that is Graham Plattner going up against a Republican senator in a somewhat relatively purplish state, right? Close state. I think it was Kamala 6, if I'm not mistaken. Now the dynamic changes, the goalposts shift, and they turn around and say, okay, well, you can't do that in a red district. You can't do that in a red state. Let's see you flip a potential red district into a blue one. And we got to do that. We got to be able to do that. And I think we should have a 50-state strategy. We should have a strategy in every district. We should have someone just like yourself in every single district. And this is an incredibly important race to prove that point, because you have the fundamentals, you have the policies, you have the charisma, especially in comparison to Moskowitz. I mean, that's not saying much, but you got the motion. We just need to be able to connect you with as many voters as possible, because once we get over that hump, once more and more people are aware of who you are and what you represent, and that there is an election even that's taking place, a primary that's taking place, if we can draw turnout, we can absolutely make a massive impact here, and we can unseat one of the worst Democrats in Congress. Like, there are a lot of villains. Obviously, we all despise the Republicans unconditionally and across the board. They're fascists, right? However, there are fascist collaborators within the Democratic Party. And I don't mind saying that Moskowitz is one of them, okay? Because he has said it. It's not me saying it. It's something he has personally communicated. He is the one who has said he agrees with the Trump administration's actions as it pertains to the Trump administration's allegiance to the state of Israel, or even Marco Rubio broadly and his initiatives across the board. That's not a Democrat at that point. That's a Republican that is running with a D next to their name. And we can't let that happen. We can't allow that to happen. And even from the perspective of the Democratic Party advancing its agenda, you can't have a spoiler like that. That's number one. Number two, this is now a different district, right? There is a likelihood that a Republican could have some impact in this district. And I personally believe that Moskowitz is a far weaker candidate in Florida 25 than Oliver is. And the reason for why is because it's the same exact dynamic that has persisted between a light MAGA or blue MAGA Democrat versus the full thing. When people are presented with those two options, they go for the full strength. They go for MAGA. It actually lowers turnout for many likely voters that would have gone out and voted, many young voters that would have gone out and voted for something rather than simply against a Republican. And I don't want to risk that. I want Democrats at the end of the day. I want Democratic Socialists at the end of the day to win these races.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And just to put a fine point on it, you know, in an election year where Democratic voters, but also non-party affiliated voters are so upset with the mass detention and deportation regime of the Trump administration. The very first law that Donald Trump signed was the Lake and Riley Act. Why would we nominate someone in a tough district who was the only Florida Democrat to vote for the Lake and Riley Act? There's no meaningful difference between the Republican and Democratic candidate in that respect. Why would we nominate someone when we have seniors that are on wait times on Social Security because 8,000 Social Security Administration workers have been placed on RIF orders that have been laid off? Why would we nominate the only Democrat in Congress, the first Democrat in Congress to join DOJ, and give voters no meaningful difference for union members that have been screwed over, had their collective bargaining agreements voided? Why would we nominate someone in the midst of the most unpopular U.S. foreign policy in our lifetimes of this catastrophic support for genocide and Jim Crow? Why would we nominate someone who has no meaningful difference with the Republican Party on the most important issue many Democratic voters consider, and the one that lost Vice President Kamala Harris the election in 2024? It would be a profound mistake to demobilize Democratic base voters and progressives based on all of these issues that are the most important contrasts we have right now with the Republican Party, in addition to the mountain of corporate PAC money that Jared Moskowitz is receiving, as he is, you know, trading many of those very same corporate PACs stocks as a sitting member of Congress with nearly $4 million. People are sick of this corruption, and they want to see a real difference between the parties, and not just, you know, as we've seen so often in Florida, not just Jared Moskowitz, but these Democrats that feel that they need to pretend to be Republicans, or perhaps they are Republicans and just feel like they need to have a D listed next to their name.
What's the significance of today, by the way, as a filing deadline? Because I know that this is the ultimate goal that you're trying to reach here is 150,000. What's the significance of today?
Yeah, so today is the last day before tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. the FEC fundraising deadline. It is a public report that we will file showing all of our fundraising from the past 3 months, from April 1st up until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. And this is what the media is going to look at. When, Hasan, you say that we need more media coverage, this is what the media is going to look at to assess the strength and legitimacy and viability of this campaign. So we need to blow our goal out of the water. We raised $200,000 in our last quarter. We need to go beyond that, and we need to hit this goal in order to do so. We need to go beyond $50,000. We need to see if we can hit $100,000 tonight. So if you haven't donated yet, or you gave a little bit and you can afford to give again, please hit that donation button right now, because this is what, when Fox News is calling me a Democratic Socialist, when Jared Moskowitz is going on CNN, but also on local media, and they're asking him about Democratic Socialism, this is the marker that the media is going to look at to ask, is this movement for real? And more importantly, do we have the resources to mobilize voters, to reach them? You know, one $20 donation helps us serve 1,000 digital ad impressions, and we're going to need to be serving thousands of ad impressions to thousands, tens of thousands of voters. So even if you've just got $20 to spend, or if you've got $200 to spend, we need every single dollar and dime that you can contribute, if you can afford it, because this is so important. We're not going to see another opportunity like this for a very long time because of the dissatisfaction that we're seeing all across the country, unless we prove that it is possible. If we prove that it is possible this election cycle, if we can send not only Claire and Daria Lisa and Chris Rabb and so many others to Congress, but if we can win these so-called purple districts, Democratic Socialism and these DSA chapters are going to be able to run candidates all across the country. And you know, tomorrow Malat Kiros is on the ballot. My brother-in-law actually voted for Malat. He lives in Denver. So, you know, solidarity with Malat. And I know, Hasan, you've been doing a ton of GOTV efforts out there and are heading out there. So we're building this movement, and your donations are an essential part of it.
All right. Hell yeah. Well, Oliver, Larkin, everybody, thank you so much for having me on. This was a great conversation. It's always wonderful to talk to you. I know you got a lot more guests coming up, right?
Yeah, we got many more. I think we just did, looking at the thermometer, I think we did about $25,000 in 25 minutes. So $1,000 a minute. If we can keep that up for the rest of the night, we're going to crush this goal. Thank you, Hasan, so much for jumping on stream with us. And
of course,
you know, appreciate all the work you're doing for
all right.
DSA
And good luck at the FEC filing tomorrow. I'm going to be in Denver, but we're going to get you some media coverage. And oh, look at that. Who is this? Your audio is muted. You're still muted. You're supposed to be a professional streamer, man.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. God damn it, dude. You put the fucking suit on. You put the suit on.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing here?
Well, first of all, Oliver, thank you so much for having me. Everybody, I'm a content creator on Twitch TV and
running for Oregon 1.
Yeah, Oregon 1. That's right. I'm also Hasan Piker's co-host of the Fiorentini podcast. But, you know, Oliver, I'm not a political commentator, but I join millions of Americans in being concerned and people who have become disillusioned with the Democratic establishment that has become more and more disconnected and in many ways failed its constituents. And it's so great to be here to elevate the message of you who will deliver an agenda for the working class. And Oliver, I want to take a personal moment to thank you for making a commitment to fight. You've got tremendous policies across the board, but specifically making a commitment to fighting and protecting LGBTQIA plus healthcare, specifically as it pertains to PrEP, which is an incredible medication that I use personally that literally saves lives and prevents HIV/AIDS with incredible success, 99%. So I'm so happy to be here and support and elevate your message. We've got $38,762 donated. Out of
39.
Oh, 39,000. Excuse me. $257 donated. I know.
I was about to cook you and be like, name a policy, but you already did. You came in hot.
Me? Hasan, I got
you
the suit
came in
on.
hot.
I got the suit on. Are you kidding me? Of course I'm prepared.
Yeah. Does this shirt also not fit you well, or
no?
You got
it's the same shirt, same suit. I even have my trans flag here pinned. So.
And now we've crossed over to $40,000. Austin, as soon as you came on,
I'm telling you,
the money started rolling in, man. You're the money man.
There's no coincidence. It's not a coincidence. But
yeah, I didn't see you on the ad. So when I saw you sitting there on the bottom, I was a little confused. I was like, I didn't realize this guy's coming for my territory.
Well, they actually preferred me over you.
Yeah,
that's what they
no,
told
I
me.
see that. Well,
you know,
yeah, you're headlining. I just warmed up the crowd.
Yeah, no, I'm moderating, so I'll be moderating for a little bit here, which I'm very much looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have. Hasan, you're free to stick around as long as you'd like.
Well, I gotta go right now.
You do? Well, that's unfortunate, but that's okay. You know, I have a lot more time, Oliver, for this than Hasan does, because I'm more committed to the cause. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah. No, well, I have to go because I'm, flying out to Denver tomorrow.
I got it. Well, thank you, Hasan, for joining us. I appreciate it. Any parting words?
Yeah, no. Donate to Oliver. Let's get another Democratic Socialist elected. And let's keep it pushing. This is a national movement. This is not just a movement that works only exclusively in deep blue districts. There are plenty of people out there who also have the exact same needs that people in New York City have, people in Los Angeles have. They all want federally funded government housing if that's a more affordable option. They want to lower rent prices. They want free healthcare. They want free college. They want a better future for their families, for their children. They want to change the American trajectory to make sure that we have a positive vision for a future rather than this downward spiral that we're stuck in. And that's not going to happen with the Republicans in charge. And unfortunately, that hasn't really happened with the Democrats that we've had in the past in charge. So we got to change those Democrats and elect some socialists into these positions of power so we can make the change happen ourselves. And it's going to be an uphill fight. It's going to be an uphill fight. It's going to be an uphill battle no matter what. First, we got to beat the Democrats and get out of the primary. But then it's much easier, in my opinion, to defeat the Republicans in the general. So that's and I know Oliver is the guy to do it. So, keep donating. Hasan. And thank you, Austin Show, I know you have a very busy schedule. You work a lot. You work tirelessly.
I do.
You were on phone call earlier when Sarah Nelson was delivering a speech. I was texting you like, you gotta respect her.
I didn't realize they could see me. But anyway, thank you, Hasan. We appreciate it. We've got another guest coming up right now, Dr. Sadaf Jaffer, who is the first ever Muslim woman mayor in U.S. history. It is my distinct privilege to welcome her aboard the fundraising broadcast. Doctor, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Hi. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on. And I believe Oliver has some questions for you. Isn't that right, Oliver?
Yeah, I do. So thank you so much, Dr. Jaffer, for being here and for being such an incredible leader in your state and for folks all across the country. And really appreciate your time tonight. So and thank you, Austin, for I love that little meet cute with Hasan before he jumped off. I thought we were ending at 25K raised, but then it looks like we jumped another $10,000 in about 5 or 10 minutes. So that's the power of this movement. For any Hasanabi heads still watching, appreciate all of your support. Keep the donations rolling in. And as they do, Dr. Jaffer, I wanted to ask. So as Austin introed you, you're the first Muslim woman mayor in U.S. history. So many people want us to believe that these victories are not possible. They want to limit our expectations. They want to limit our imagination. The powerful want us to believe that a candidate with my politics, with our politics, can't win in South Florida. How are you able to overcome these narratives, and what advice do you have for me and any other Democratic Socialist or progressive candidates standing up for human rights across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was first asked to run in my town because it was all Republican in the local government, and there were no Democrats even running. The Republicans had been running unopposed for a few years. And so when I ran, I remember I was on a local television show, and they were saying, well, you're just running as a symbolic thing, right? There's no way you can actually win in a town like that. And I said, no, I think I can win. I've looked at the data. I have a message. I'm going to the community. And I did win. I became the first Democrat and the only one in several years. Then we took over the majority. I became the mayor. And then it became an all Democratic town. Similarly, in the state legislative district, when I ran, at first there was all Republican, then there was one Democrat, then there were two. And then when I won my seat, we took over all 3 seats as Democrats in the state legislature in my district. So I absolutely don't believe in, this is a blue area, this is a red area, or this is a progressive area, this is a centrist area. Similarly, as you mentioned, as a Muslim candidate, I would have people say, well, okay, there's a lot of Asian Americans in our town, but you're the wrong kind because you're Muslim, so they're not going to vote for you. And I always said, I give the voters more credit than that. They want to hear a message. They want someone who's actually going to serve them. And that's actually how it worked out. So if you have a strong message, which obviously you do, and then you have the resources to get that message across to the public, there's nothing that can stop you. So let me ask you a question, which is, what have you learned about this district, or is there a moment that sticks with you that helps motivate you as you continue? And I also want to just thank you for running and providing a worthwhile, alternative to business as usual, and actually one of the most hostile Democrats that we have in Congress. So if you could share a little bit.
Yeah, I think what I've learned about this district is that we are willing to take on leadership for ourselves. And I say this because it was apparent before I ever decided to become a candidate. I saw our district standing up and really in a moment where there is a power vacuum in the Democratic Party in Florida and in so many other parts of this country, where we see candidates that are moving to the right, or they're cynically going after deep blue districts that they didn't previously represent, like Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz in the district next to ours, trying to cynically divide up the Black community and get in the way of an amazing candidate in Elijah Manley. I saw really the leadership from the grassroots level when I went to an Indivisible town hall last April, in April of 2025. And they had invited Congressman Moskowitz to come speak, and it was a packed event. And this was really in the throes of when Elon Musk and Doge were taking a gutting knife to the federal government and federal agencies, and people were scared. And there was a United Church of Christ in Fort Lauderdale, a progressive church with a lot of LGBTQ members that hosted this event, and the announcers, the organizers announced that Congressman Moskowitz did not even respond to their invitation. And there was an open microphone, and just ordinary people, a lot of them much older than me, got up on the microphone and said, we have to primary this guy. We need new leadership. And they knew that Kamala Harris had won the district by 2 points in 2024. They knew that Jared Moskowitz had won the district by 5 points. And they still were ready for a primary challenge, because at a certain point, the looking at the polls and looking at the margins and deciding this is the kind of candidate that can run here and this is the kind of candidate that can run there, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it limits our political imagination of what is truly possible. And then to add insult to injury, when Congressman Moskowitz went on Fox News, as he so often does, following that event that he bailed on, they asked him about missing this town hall, and there were headlines because Congressman Moskowitz has never had any public town halls in our district. And they asked him about this town hall, and he said, well, it wasn't mine. It was a special interest group. The last I checked, Indivisible members are not a special interest group. They are community organizers and activists that are ready to take on leadership where these power vacuums exist. And when I started running, I just started going to these Rage Against the Regime protests, these No Kings rallies, and we were able to qualify for candidate ballot by petition with over 3,000 signatures. And that was just me and our volunteers going out to these events, talking to voters. And people are so hungry. And something that came up so often, and really this is the theory of change for this race. People would come up to me, and I've got a little bit of gray in my beard. I'm turning 34 years old on the 4th of July. And I was the youngest. I was one of the youngest people at this town hall. And at these protests that I would go to, there were elders who protested the Vietnam War and remembered when Roe v. Wade was decided. That's now been rolled back. And that they would tell me, I've never been more scared for this country in my life. And I can't believe we're back to a place where I thought we had pulled ourselves out of after the civil rights movement. And they would ask me where the young people are, and I said, "Don't they?" They would ask, "Don't they know that there's fascism, that there's authoritarianism? Don't they care?" And I said, "Yes, they do care, but they're organizing in different spaces because the institution of the Democratic Party has lost the faith of the next generation." But that's why I believe what our campaign is offering and why we're inspiring so much hope and optimism. If you look at our team, if you look at our volunteers, these are the young people that have been disaffected and felt left out of the Democratic Party's mainstream and the corporate establishment that has been a barrier to so many young people and so many progressives from entering. So I think that is what is so unique about this race, is that we truly are building this bridge in a state with a closed primary where you have to be a registered Democrat in order to vote. We're giving young people a reason to join the Democratic Party and see that affecting this kind of positive change is possible when we engage with the party apparatus.
Yes.
And you know, with respect to Congressman Moskowitz, that's just not something that he's offering whatsoever. And I think it's one of the strongest contrasts in this race. And it's something that I, continue to learn as I see just organizers taking leadership roles where our elected officials have left us out to fend for ourselves.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Do you have a parting message?
Just that as we see that number creep up to 50,000, I really hope that people can push us to that limit. As I was saying, as you've heard from Oliver, anything is possible when we put our energies together. The momentum that we've seen all across the country has shown us that the voters are ready for something different. They were ready for something better, and that something is what we see in Oliver. So good luck, and I'm here to support you, and everyone on this call is, and we're going to try to get to 50,000 as soon as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Jaffer. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us. All right, up next, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Phil Agnew, who has a special announcement from Dream Defenders. Hey, Phil, thank you so much for joining us. We know you're on a tight schedule. Thanks for making the time.
No, it's all good. I'm good. My schedule is wide open for Oliver, for the people, for the state of Florida. I'm good. I won't be making the announcement. Nailah will be, but okay, I'm happy to be here.
Sorry. Great.
It's
awesome.
all good. I'm here.
Well, look, Dream Defenders. Oh, there's Nailah. Hey, how are you? We brought them both on. There we go. I understand that you're going to be making an announcement. Do you want to make that now?
Yeah, I sure can do that. Thanks,
Please.
guys. Hi, everyone. I'm Nailah Summers, Polite. I'm from the Dream Defenders, and our members have voted to endorse Oliver Larkin. And so you're hearing this here first. Super excited to hit the streets for him and, make sure that Florida knows who they need to vote for.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oliver, any comments, Oliver?
I mean, I'm just so grateful and so humbled, having followed the Dream Defenders work for so many years, and really for me, back when the Dream Defenders were founded at such a critical moment in response to the murder of Trayvon Martin in our state, in Florida, in the city of Windermere. I remember sitting on my phone feeling helpless as the verdict came in, and the spawning of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so I've followed the Dream Defenders work for so long, and really what you're doing is so central to building a state and a country that is predicated on systems of justice, systems of equity, systems of inclusion that truly support the well-being and the thriving of every single member in our community, and rectifying the injustices of the institutions in this country that were not built for all of us. They were built for some of us, and left out and exclude so many others that deserve to share in the shared experiment of American democracy that we're working towards every single day. And so I'm so very grateful for your support. Thank you for announcing it here on the call, in front of so many people, and bringing to light. And I would love to also hear from you, Nailah, and Phil, about the work that the Dream Defenders are doing and how folks can get involved. We've got some Dream Defender alumni on our staff, and I know how meaningful this is, not only to me, but to every single one that is working to elect this movement to Congress. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. We're really excited to, be repping our membership on this call. right now we've got a campaign going called Cream. It's Class Ruins Everything Around Me. And so it's, you know, a bunch of young, Black, working class people in Florida and other places in the South that are talking to their communities and their neighbors about, you know, the system of racial capitalism and what it's doing to all of us and why it's important to take action against it, why billionaires are controlling our lives and why they ought not do that, and what we need to do to rise up as, you know, a people, and fight that good fight. So, you know, we see this endorsement of Oliver's as part of that work, as part of that continuation, and as a part of young Black people in the South taking our power back. And so, yeah, we're really happy. You know, Oliver is part of a cohort, especially coming out of Florida right now. We've got Oliver, we've got Angie Nixon, who we're also endorsing, that are really stepping up to the plate to combat like 30 years of Republican rule here. Totally fucking subpar representation from the Dems in this state. And we're at a crucial moment. I mean, people all over the state, from the Panhandle down to the Keys, are pissed, right? Like we're just as pissed, if not more pissed, than everybody else in this country. Yeah. And so we've got more fight to have and more fight to give. And so, yeah, Oliver, we see you and your run and this race as part of that fight. So yeah, we're super hype, and I'm really glad to be on here with Phil, who's you know, one of our co-founders, our first executive director, one of my teachers. So go for it, Phil.
And Phil, I actually have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, you guys built Dream Defenders. It was born out of a response to the Trayvon Martin killing. You built independent Black and brown political power in a state that most national Democrats had just written off. Can you tell everybody here why Oliver is the kind of candidate worth putting that power behind?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started our organization in 2012, it was fashionable then, as it is now, to treat Florida like a punchline, to treat Florida like a joke, to treat it like something that's an afterthought, that there's no point in organizing there. Those crazy people have made the choice and committed the crime of choosing Florida as a place to raise their families in. And when we began organizing, we went all over the state, from the Panhandle all the way down to the bottom of the map. And what we found over and over and over again, Nailah can attest to it, Oliver, I know you can attest to it, is that the appetite for the politic that we are talking about, the state of Florida and the country and the world that we want to see, the leftist vision and conception of what our lives could look like, was insatiable to people. And that is what they are very afraid of. It has become fashionable to forget about Florida. But in 1 month, in 19 days, in a few more minutes, all the prognosticators, all the pundits, all the politicals, all the people who have the focus groups, and all the people in their suits are going to spit out their wine. They're going to read the headlines and realize what we all know right now, that the state of Florida is going to elect Oliver Larkin and Angie Nixon to represent them in Congress. And those people are going to have to rewrite their statements, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board, and they're going to have confused looks when they look across their dinner party at those other people, and they're going to try to figure out, how do we get out ahead of this? What happened? But it is because they forgot about the Dream Defenders in Florida. They forgot about the Democratic Socialists of America in Florida, the incarcerated people, the dreamers, the farmers in Immokalee, the workers in Fort Lauderdale, the Uber drivers in Tampa. They forgot about all the working people who have made this state what it is. It's not a playground for the wealthy. This is a place where real human beings live and make lives out of nothing. And we are going to do the impossible in a few months. And so we saw that as we organized with the Dream Defenders, that that fertile ground that we first marched on 12 years ago, no, more than 12 years, Jesus, 14 years ago is still there. And I'm really excited to be a part of this team, a part of this other wave of people who are coming up out of Florida. I believe in Oliver. I believe in the team that is around Oliver. I believe in Angie Nixon. I believe in the team that is around Angie Nixon. And I believe in the people on this call, and we're going to shake up the world. Muhammad Ali did it in Miami some 50, 60 years ago. We're going to shake up the world.
Thank you so much, Phil. Just Nailah, what Phil was talking about, how he alluded to the fact that National Democrats, they keep treating Florida as a lost cause. And I hear this sentiment, by the way. My boyfriend is from Florida, Cape Coral, Florida. So I hear this even from him. But can you talk to the people here that may not be from Florida? What do you see on the ground here that they may not see? And how does Oliver help build power in this state? And what would the impact be in your eyes?
Yeah. I mean, people see the worst of Florida, right? They see all the shit that's happening at the federal level. They see it probably happen in Florida first. They are seeing the book bans. They're seeing the Don't Say Gays. They're seeing the abortion bans. They're seeing the fascist campus takeovers, right? But they're also not seeing all the people that have been living through this and that are pissed. Like, my mother-in-law is from a very rural town up in North Central Florida. And when I sit in her living room and, like, you know, the neighbors and the cousins and the aunties come over, they talk about local politics and they talk about us needing new blood in every facet, right? They talk about the need for something new all the time. And these are people who, you know, don't agree with us all the time. But we are seeing on every level, that's like one anecdote, but we're seeing students on campuses who have had their who have had their majors taken away, right? We're seeing workers who can't afford to pay their rent. We've got some of the most unaffordable rent in the country. I had to leave. You know, I'm from South Florida. I had to come up to Jacksonville because I couldn't afford it anymore. Like, people are feeling it all the time from every walk of life. And that's the thing that people who are not here, who are not from here, are not seeing. They are not seeing and hearing the conversations that people are having every single day of their lives. Like, people are pissed and people are ready for something new. And Oliver is part of that. Like, Oliver and Angie and everyone across the country who is part of this wave right now, this wave that will win and this enduring wave that is going to change the face of this country. Like, they give working people a leg to stand on, right? Like, and we'll hold your feet to the fire too, right? Like, don't get in there and play games. We're still gonna hold you accountable. But like, our membership and people like our members believe that people like Oliver are, you know, have our best interest in mind, that they come from somewhere, that they were raised right, that they have principles, that they have a base of people that they're accountable to. So there's a lot of excitement and a lot of hope in Florida right now because of people like Oliver.
Thank you both for joining us. We really appreciate the endorsement. And on that note, $49,614 out of $50,000. By in part to people like you guys. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Oliver, look at this. $50,000, almost $50,000. Just an hour ago, Oliver, it was, I think, like less than $15,000. Look how much money's been raised in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, this is sensational. And this is a testament to our movement. We are mobilizing one race, one primary at a time, from Colorado to New York to Philadelphia to South Florida. We are building a movement that is capable. When organized people stand together, when we come together, there's no amount of money that AIPAC can spend that can touch what we're building here in solidarity with so many of you watching and chipping in.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's my pleasure to welcome our next guests onto the broadcast. We've got Adam Green and Nate Blouin, for joining us here to make a pitch. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Thank you, guys.
Great to see you. This has been such an exciting conversation. You know, some of these webinars are like really boring, stale content. This is a really good set of conversation. I'm actually learning stuff tonight. But I think part of why we're on is, you know, to talk about the through line between what Oliver's doing in Florida and so many amazing progressive victories across the country. And Nate, you're actually in Colorado right now, having just run in Utah, right? Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we just, had a bit of a disappointment in Utah. I think we could have pulled off something a lot more exciting with more groundwork, and that's what this is all about. So I drove over to Colorado a couple days ago to help out Nailah, who is running just an incredible campaign here in Colorado. I'm in my hotel room in Denver right now, and I'm excited to see what comes tomorrow. I think the energy we felt on the ground here. I mean, they're launching several canvases a day with dozens of people at every single one of them. They just hit 100,000 doors knocked today since April. The groundswell is unbelievable. And that just goes to show, like, when the groundwork is laid, when we have the right organizations, the right groups coming together, the right people showing up, we can do really big things. And so I think Deget, Mailot's opponent, is scared and not feeling a lot of momentum on her side. And Mailot's got it all. She's done an incredible job here of leveraging all that momentum. And so to come over from Utah, a state where people haven't invested a lot, haven't paid a lot of attention, and to be able to learn from what's going on here, and then to, I think, put that to good work in Florida for Oliver in a couple months is going to be just incredible. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens here. This is the beginning, not the end. The wins in New York City, where I know Adam spent some time recently, were huge, and we're going to just keep the wave going, and it's awesome.
Really cool that you picked yourself up and went to help ensure the next big progressive victory. Thank you for doing that, Nate. Oliver, I'm actually going to have a question for you in a second, but I just want to kind of pile on to what Nate was saying. I was on the ground with Chris Rabb in Pennsylvania, and then last week in New York for a couple of the big victories there. Also actually flew up to a very rural part of Maine for Graham Plattner's big victory a couple weeks ago. And I just want to identify a through line that I'm seeing, which is, this is about people wanting candidates who will speak truth and take on not just issues, but a broken political and economic system itself. And that's what I was hearing over and over again. I was actually sent to a very establishment part of Philadelphia for Chris Rabb, and the people who came to the polls, who then told me afterwards that they voted for him, were just saying, like, he said the word genocide. He's taking on corporate power. And I think those are proxies for this larger thing where, and we're seeing this with Abdul versus Haley Stevens and Mallory McMorrow in Michigan as well in a big Senate race, where they don't want politicians who tie themselves in pretzels in order to kind of take a position but not offend corporate donors who might spend money against them, right? They want someone who's going to speak truth to power and then actually rely on the grassroots to defeat that power. And Oliver, it's just been so inspiring hearing your words on this call tonight. And we had a little time together in DC recently when we put on this speed intros thing where you sat down with a bunch of top national reporters and bookers. And just today, someone from MS Now reached out being like, we want to have Oliver Larkin on the air. And I'm just really curious what your experience was talking to them, but also, to me, that stood for something larger, which is as people hear from you directly and learn about you, it's contagious, whether it's reporters or voters. So can you speak a little bit about how you're going from someone who's running an upstart progressive campaign to someone who's breaking into the mainstream and really tapping into people's imaginations?
Yeah, I thank you for the question, Adam, and thank you for the invitation up with the Progressive Change Campaign Committee to Washington, D.C. It was a tremendous event, and I had the opportunity to meet State Representative, soon to be Congressman Chris Rabb, and so many other amazing progressive candidates. It really could not have come at a better time on the heels of what we just saw in New York City with the elections of Daria Lisa and of Claire. And I also want to give Nate his flowers for running and then picking yourself up and going, to help build this movement, Nate. I think you've really, this movement would not be possible without candidates like you that are running in all sorts of different districts all across the country, showing that it is possible and that we should have a bigger imagination of a different kind of politics. The questions from the national media are, how far is this movement going to be able to go? We've seen now cycle after cycle that we can elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we can elect Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush, and we can elect Jamal Bowman, and we can now get Chris Rabb and Daria Lisa and Claire nominated. Can we win in states like Florida? Can we win in these so-called purple districts? And I think what we're proving is that this hunger, this desire for political change is not restricted. I think people maybe make the mistake that this is just a desire of Democratic voters. This is a desire of voters of all different affiliations, of non-party affiliated voters. And I think increasingly Republican voters that have just been casting around for some kind of answer to what ails this country. And I think the opportunity here is to prove that we can stitch together a new kind of coalition, similar to what Graham Plattner is putting together in a state like Maine that has reliably voted for Susan Collins down ballot, even as they elect Democrats at the top of the ticket. The national media interest in this race, and I alluded to it earlier, now that Newsmax and Fox News and the far right media is starting to question, should Jared Moskowitz be scared? I believe he should be, because what we're offering the voters is something that has not previously been offered by very many candidates in a state like Florida. But the desire is there, and the possibility is there. And what this evening is doing is showing that voters that donors and voters and Americans all across the country are really hungering to broaden our political horizons and to imagine a new and different style of politics, one that truly has working class people at its heart, and that centers justice and integrity and human dignity and human rights. And I think that's something that unites so many of us beyond just the partisan labels that are cast on us by the corporate media.
Amen. I'll just share one last thought and then throw it to you, Nate, to finish off this segment. Part of the reason I think it's so important for people to donate tonight is that you're investing in not just one race, but really a national proof of concept that will have such ripple effects, including in the presidential election next year. We heard so much in 2020, oh, I can't vote for this progressive because they can't win in the general election. And 2026 is our proving ground to show that people like Oliver and Graham Plattner and Abdul and the folks who won in New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania can win in blue districts, purple districts, and red states, right? And if Florida goes through this machination of redistricting, designs a more Republican district, someone like Oliver cannot just beat a current incumbent, but then go on to beat a Republican in the general election, and others do that around the nation. Scared, well-meaning electability voters will take note and be like, you know what? It's okay to be inspired again. And that's why it's so important to invest right now. Because again, I've seen it. I saw it just this week. When people hear from Oliver, they love Oliver and they believe this is real. And the money that you're donating tonight is part of ensuring that voters, and then through them eventually in polling the media, recognize that this campaign is for real and give it even more attention. So please make sure to donate and know that you're not just investing in a race, you're investing in the future of our politics. Nate, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I hate it, but that deadline is real. I mean, the media looks at those reports that will come out after the filing deadline tomorrow evening, and they say, oh, this person is serious or they are not. And raising $50,000 in an evening is incredible. Huge kudos to everyone who's involved in that. That would have done wonders for our campaign. That was more than we got out of a split Bernie Sanders email. So that's incredible. That will go so far for a campaign like Oliver's. And so keep donating, do that. And that helps, like he was saying, get more impressions on social media, pay staff, because we have to hire good people to work on our campaigns that believe in the cause, to take on corporate power. We're not taking these corporate checks. We're not taking all that nonsensical money that steers our politics in the absolute wrong direction. It's so disappointing to see where these sorts of people are getting their money and sending our politics. It doesn't work for folks. So donate to Oliver right now. And then I put the link in the chat. Phone bank for Maylot tomorrow. The election is tomorrow night. So if you can jump on and help her out in one final push before the ballots are counted at 7 p.m. Mountain, do that as well. And this is a fantastic movement. And I see Francesca's coming on now. I just got a preview of that. She's awesome as well. So keep up the pressure, everyone. Thank you.
I'm just going to say, Oliver has asked people to donate $54 in honor of his college football number 54. I'm going to do that right now. It's going to be my fourth donation of the night. This is too inspiring. I have to get off now. I'm sorry. See, I'm going to go broke, but thank you, Oliver. Seriously.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Nate, so much.
Good luck, Oliver. Keep it up.
Austin, we can't hear you.
My gosh. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Nate, from the Progressive Campaign Change Campaign Committee. So sorry, Oliver. Oliver, I'm going to pass it off here to my friend Jack, who doesn't know we're friends yet. But can you hear me now, Oliver, right? You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. Jack, hey, Jack, you're the You're my friend.
I absolutely do know. We're friends.
Yeah, my friend who was my
I've been discussed on the
friends,
pod.
Yes, my other good friend's doppelganger who went to the basketball game instead of Will Neff. I know you guys had a great time.
And then Will became Charlie Day. And,
that's right.
And that was and then that was really big for the community.
Absolutely. Well, Jack, I know you'll do a fantastic job. And Oliver, it's been an absolute privilege to be here and moderate for a brief period of time. Everybody, make sure you donate $51,562 and many more to go. Thank you so much, Oliver. And Jack, take it away.
I'm going to. Thank you for the great introduction, my dear friend, I should say. And I first wanted to say, Oliver, thank you so much for having me. It was great getting to see you in DC. This campaign and everyone who's gotten behind it is just such an inspiration. People are not only getting excited, but sometimes even better, people are clearly getting scared in the establishment and the mainstream press. So this has just been fantastic. But I don't want to talk any longer because a special guest was teased up at the beginning of the live, and that is former State Senator Nina Turner. So I do not want to take any more time away from you. I'd love for you to just hop in. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. I see a lot of, oh my God, Nina, oh my God, S&T. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I certainly enjoyed all that I've heard before. It takes definitely teamwork to make the dream work, and to be in support of Oliver, who I've known for a long time. His work with me at Our Revolution, his work on the ground for Senator Bernie Sanders, who still this day is the most popular elected official in the United States of America. He's not just popular for popularity's sake. He's popular because of the policies that he stands for and the courage that he has had. And oh my God, how's the world caught up with him and his vision. And to have Oliver standing in the ready positions as someone who is running in Florida against a DeSantis Democrat, Oliver Larkin, am I correct that that is the way the current person in that seat describes himself? Do we need a DeSantis Democrat in that seat? I would say absolutely not. But before I all the way get started, we're at $51,776 for all of those people saying, oh my God, the Honorable Nina Turner. Oh my God, it's Nina. Oh my God, it's S&T. I need y'all to put a little more money in the pot. We don't have to have all the money, but Oliver Larkin needs enough money to be competitive. You've heard what everybody has had to say before me, so I need not repeat it, but to say time, talent, and treasure matters in a race like this. And so the FEC, the measure that would happen for Oliver, we know how they measuring. So that's just one measure of many. For their measure matters, but our measure matters more. This is a national race. Can you imagine Oliver Larkin there rocking with Anna Lilia, who is also on the Sanders campaign? Can you imagine him rocking with others who are very much people power centered? That's what we need. We don't need any more corporate Democrats. We don't need anybody else that's been co-opted by big money. They've forgotten about the people on Main Street. They answer to the people of Wall Street. We need people like Oliver Larkin to win the seat because we need synergy. We need a mass number. We ain't got to have all the numbers. Some of you may be old enough, and if you're not, just go ahead and research it. When the Tea Party got there, now, I don't rock with the Tea Party, but one thing that I did respect about the Tea Party is they took mainline Republicans to task. It was only a few of them. We didn't need a lot of them. It was only a few of them, and they exercised their power. We need to send Oliver there. We need to send Congresswoman Cori Bush back there. We got Anna Lilia going there. We got 3 folks who just won in New York going there, and a few other folks. If we can get critical mass in that Congress, they can shake the very foundation of the mainline corporatist do nothing, pretend to do the right thing while they answer to the owner donors who got choke collars around their necks. We can send people like Oliver Larkin, whose only special interest is you. And so it does matter. You don't have to live in Florida for Oliver Larkin's win to matter. I live in Ohio, and I understand why it matters that he goes to the United States Congress, because most Congress people only get a few things for their district specifically. But what they vote on
on, both domestically and also internationally, matters to everybody in the United States of America. The great Fannie Lou Hamer once said that nobody's free until everybody's free. I love Oliver's boldness in calling genocide what it is. I love his boldness in understanding that the tactics that the right-wing government of Israel is using and creating an apartheid-like system in the Gaza is similar to what happened, not the same. There's a whole difference between chattel slavery, but there's some similarities there. And so while people are comparing stuff to Nazi Germany, I need to remind you where the Nazi Germany, where they learned this stuff, where Hitler learned this stuff from Confederates in the good old United States of America. I love that Oliver did not wait until he got a special title. And I want you to hear me correct. Good. We had $52,149. We need to go and get that to $55,000. I need somebody to call a friend or a frenemy. We call them frenemies now. They don't just have to be friends. But if they believe in putting somebody in office who believes that all people in this country should have universal health care, who believe that people should be able to unionize on their jobs without fear of being fired, who believe that we should have universal child care in these United States of America, who believe that people should have not just access to the ballot box, but the ballot box, unfettered access to the ballot box. If you want to send somebody who is about the human rights of people both in the United States and abroad, then that is Oliver Larkin. So come on, put them $27 more. You know what you can do? If you already donated, you could just pledge a monthly donation. Just go ahead. If you ain't got $250 right now, we'll take it in installments. Installments work, but I need you to put some more money on the table. So one of the things that I love about Oliver is he didn't wait until he got to Congress to stand up against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now listen, it's easy to talk against the Republicans. It's easy. That's what Democrats do. But what we don't find, and even some people who are in that Congress right now who are safe, will not say a mumbling word. We can talk about what the GOP is doing to disenfranchise voters in these United States of America, and particularly the African-American vote, playing from a playbook where the foundation has already been laid in the United States of America and what it took for Black people to get the right to vote in America. A whole bunch of folks ain't said a mumbling word. Some of the people you respect as politicians, they haven't said a mumbling word, and especially that Congressional Black Caucus. And Oliver's not saying this. I, the Honorable Nina Turner, am saying this, that most of them are not worth a dime. They've been co-opted. They've been bought off by AIPAC. Matter of fact, all these special caucuses, the Asian caucus, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the Hispanic caucus, and for the love of God, the Congressional Black Caucus, they've been bought off. Now, there's some individuals within those caucuses who are all right. They stand up for what is right, but as caucuses. But I'm going to tell you all something. Oliver Larkin did not hesitate before it became popular to say so. He made a video and he stood 10 toes down on calling what Debbie Wasserman Schultz is doing wrong. So there's no difference between what she is doing and what DeSantis is doing or what any of the GOP controlled legislatures are doing in the South. There's no difference. So we're not letting her off the hook. Oliver, I appreciate that boldness. He didn't wait. And there's a lot of candidates who, again, they won. We like them. They probably are going to do the right thing when they get in office. But I'm waiting on them to join Oliver and call out Debbie Wasserman Schultz and say, not on our watch, after all that Black people have been through and all that we are going through right now, not on our watch will we allow somebody who is a Democrat to sit up there and take, when she could have ran in her own district, steal from the Black community, a Black opportunity district. We will not. Oliver, I'm lifting you up for that. Now, President Nelson Mandela once said that it always seems impossible until it is done. Well, baby, that's what we're working on right now to do this thing. So no matter what the mainstream media says, no matter what the naysayers say, it always seems impossible until it is done. Oliver is showing incredible courage by going up against Jared. That's who he is, Jared. He doesn't even deserve the title of congressman because he has sold out the people in his own district and by extension, the people of the United States of America. This is why Oliver is doing a very heavy lift. It's one thing to run against a Republican. Shout out to all Democrats that do it. Lastly, my race was the canary in the coal mine, and Oliver has never forgotten that. And some of you may have forgotten that. My race in Ohio 11th, 2021, I ran in a special primary. And in May of 2021, I was 30 points ahead of the person who has the seat right now. And AIPAC and Israel First donors came in to Ohio 11th and walked me down. Don't ever forget it. So I'm telling you from experience what it means to have somebody like Oliver win this seat. It means so much to me, but this is not just about me, but Oliver knows how much this means to me to have candidates like him and candidates like Hartzell Gray and so many others. Again, I'm not naming them all. Run this kind of race. Oftentimes when you are the first, they can gun at you. But let me tell you something. They said on the record that Ohio 11 was first and they were going to use the model that they created to go after progressives all over the country. And so then they took out Congress members Bowman and Bush. They go after progressives with a particular, they do it. And they go after Black progressives even harder. In my race, in that special election, I was able to raise $7 million. It had never been done. I raised money from every single state in the United States of America, including the District of Columbia. And that didn't come easy. That came from my work of being right there, front and center, not just as a state senator, but as a city councilwoman, as a college professor, and then rocking with Senator Bernie Sanders in 2016 and also 2020. And you all showed up for me. I am asking you to show up for Oliver Larkin. We have got to push back against the corporatist wing of the Democratic Party. My last quote. One of the greatest novelists of the 20th century, he once said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. That was James Baldwin. Oliver Larkin is standing in the ready for each and every one of us, and we got to stand in the ready for him. Now, we already hit one goal. They got another goal up, and every time we hit a goal, guess what, Jack? We're going to raise the ante. That's how this goes. So even if we hit the 50, we're trying to get to 67, I would love to get to 53 before I go out of here. That's the least. So I need you to go ahead and put some more.
We got some time, everybody.
Put some money on the books, y'all. Put some money on the books. And again, if you can't do it all tonight, why don't you pledge to give a little more? Oliver is going to win this primary. Shout out to the Dream Defenders, Oliver, for supporting you. Philip Agnew and Summer Polite. I mean, they are some of the greatest people. Agnew, as you know, was a Bernie-crat as well, working and rocking really hard, and they stand up for what is just right and good, just as you do, Oliver Larkin. We got to send you there. Sending you there is not just for your district, but sending you there is for every person in the United States of America and every working class and marginalized person all over the world. Because as we know, members of Congress vote all over. Ooh, Jack, we didn't hit it.
I was about to say 53. I see 53,000.
I know I said I'm feeling some kind of way right now. FDR, and I promise my last one. I've been mixing up all kinds of folks in here. I'm feeling Mother Jones right now, who says she would pray for the dead and fight like the living. See, this is the kind of spirit that Oliver Larkin has. It's a whole bunch of sheroes and heroes that have come before us. Some of them are still alive, though, walking the face of this earth. But many came before us, even came before Senator Bernard Sanders. We are not recreating anything here. FDR told the status quo of his day, the ultra wealthy of his day, that he welcomed their hatred. Even though he was ultra wealthy himself, he rocked to a different tune, and he understood that we needed an economic bill of rights. At the same time, you had people like Bayard Rustin, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Asa Philip Randolph, one of the greatest labor unionists of the 20th century, create what is called the Freedom Budget for All Americans. And their goal was to eradicate poverty in the United States of America in 10 years, from 1966 to 1977, for all Americans. They put a time limit on it. They said, we're a hegemon nation. We can do this. We don't want to hear nothing about what we can't do. We know that we can do it. FDR's 4 freedoms, the freedom from want, the freedom from fear, the freedom of religion, and the freedom of speech. FDR, although not perfect on race, I'm gonna put that in the parking lot, but he understood. He said, not just at home, but abroad. Oliver Larkin is rocking the spirit of all of these great sheroes and heroes, far too many for me to name, but I think I'm painting a picture for you that if FDR, he was asked the question, what is your greatest contribution? He said it was to save capitalism. Now, FDR had a different approach to it, but if FDR was running, my point in saying this is that if FDR was running right now, people like Jared, people like Third Way, people like these neoliberal Democrats, they part of the crowd that got the man, would want to get the man out of office. He said we needed an economic bill of rights, that people should have a living wage. Now, they called it something else then, but he named those things. He said we should take care of the orphan and the widow. He said we should have education for people who need it. All of the things that we're talking about right now, FDR talked about in his time, and he met with the same forces that Oliver Larkin is meeting with right now, and anybody that's cut from a humanitarian cloth. So none of this stuff is new under the sun. Pick your shero, pick your hero. Oliver Larkin is channeling their spirit. So the question becomes not how great Mother Jones was, or Fannie Lou Hamer, or President Nelson Mandela, or Asa Philip Randolph, or Bayard Rustin, or Dr. King, or Malcolm X, or any of the other, fill in the blank. Jack, fill in the blank. Oliver, fill in the blank. The question becomes, what are people like you and me going to do in our time to honor their memory in our time and to build a more just society for ourselves and for generations yet unborn? Only all that we love is on the line. That's all. Nothing too big. Just all that we love. So you might not be able to do everything, but you don't have to, because many hands make for light work. And we need to send some more working class people to that Congress who will not forget where they came from. And if they do, we're going to remind them. Because for all the people that we send to Congress, I want to see some action. Lights, camera, action. Not all that talk, how they won I'm glad, win them, but we're going to hold these people accountable. They're not rock stars. I hate that they're not rock stars. They're supposed to be public servants. Mm-hmm. So Oliver Larkin is channeling many, many spirits right now, right, of the great ones who put so much on the line. And so many of them died for what they believed in. Some were jailed. Eugene Debs is coming to mind right now. Wow, so many. So, Oliver, we're at $53,244. Man.
I think we're going to get that 67,000.
Past 55,000. I know we're going to get past 55,000.
I think we're going to get to that 67,000 by the end of the night. I think we can make.
I saw Francesca say she got to bounce. I know we running late. Listen, I've been sitting here and God bless Zach, who's been texting me back and forth. I know how these things can go sometimes, but I understand Francesca has to go. It's a long night. But to all of you who stayed here tonight to hear all the incredible people, the incredible lineup, and each and every one of us bringing something similar, something different, something unique, but what we all have in common. Oh, thank you, Kevin Nina, for president. Well, we will see. I tell you what, if I don't do it, I'm rooting for Congressman Ro Khanna, but that's another story for another time. I appreciate you guys. I've been hearing that for a long time. I just want you to know that what you do tonight matters. It matters for Oliver and it matters for his team, but more importantly, it matters for all of us collectively, right? It is him and living vicariously through him and so many others who are going to go there and show people how this is really done, what it truly means to change the material conditions of working class people, and what it really means to not be bought and sold, what it really means to know that the people who put you there, the everyday people who can't pay for their insulin or can't pay for their health insurance or their wages are not keeping up with inflation, those everyday people whose names we may not know, that Oliver Larkin is going to be one of a very few who are going to go to that seat and rock it like he may only get one term. That's how we rolling, just like that. And we rolling hard for working class people from all backgrounds. So we are going to send Oliver Larkin to Congress. We're going to upset this whole thing, and he's going to be joining a whole lot of other dynamic people. So God bless you, Oliver Larkin, for standing in the ready and doing every single thing that you're doing, for always never forgetting me and what happened to me in 2021. I know that seems like a lifetime ago. And to your family, to your wife and to your family, because when one person runs, a lot of your entire family runs. You are simply the best, Oliver Larkin. Let's send him to Congress.
And let's keep those donations coming up. And I think that's just such a perfect place to jump into our next group of panelists, because what tonight is about is of course not just South Florida, but this is about changing the entire country. This is about people who will go and fight for everyone in their basic humanity, which has been something that really most Democrats in our establishment do not want to consider, that they think is a nuisance. They call it a litmus test. They get annoyed when we ask these questions, when we raise concerns about the dignity of all people, and specifically Palestinians. And that's why I'm really glad that we're having a great group of panelists. Donna Nevel is joining us, Dr. Sadaf, Jaffer, Qasim, Rashid, Tariq from New Policy. We got a great group of panelists that are joining us, so I'm very excited. And we got a couple of people joining. I think everyone's going to be hopping in. But Qasim, how you doing? Oh, I think you might be muted. We figured this out. We do the tech stuff on the fly. It's all good.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good to see you, Jack.
Good to see you as well.
Oliver. How's it going?
Good to see you.
It was great to see you last week in DC, and I know everyone here on the stream is just super committed because it's 10-10. There's a World Cup game going on. We're missing Love Island, so we're all
Don't even tell me.
For Oliver, we got to get these numbers up though, because I'm seeing 53 and we're stagnating a bit. We got to drive these numbers up for Oliver. Let's make it happen. Glad to be here with you.
Thank you so much for joining. And I think we're getting some audio issues worked out. But I just really want to jump in. There's been so much of a conversation recently with big wins for DSA candidates and progressives all across the country of whether or not a focus on honoring the basic human rights and dignity of all people is something that maybe we shouldn't be focused on. What is Oliver's, for anyone who wants to jump in? What is Oliver's organizing around Gaza and protecting basic human rights and dignity for all people? What has that meant to y'all and wanting to get involved with his campaign? Oh, were we losing some audio here? Tariq, do you want to jump in?
I'm happy to go.
Yeah, please do.
Honestly, seeing what Oliver has already done so far, it's transformational. I lived in South Florida for years. I met my wife in Broward County. It is not the kind of place where when I lived there over 10 years ago, I saw people like Oliver in my politicians. And it was something that I was always looking for. To see that type of organization, to see someone who stands up for Palestinian human rights, stands up against genocide, stands up against corporate and special interests.
Yeah.
That's the kind of candidates that we need. Oliver is doing that. And I know every time he talks to people in the community, they get excited about him because that's something that we often are missing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Am I coming through now?
No, perfect. Landed it.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's the litmus test of our time nowadays. I mean, it's such a clear-cut litmus test. We've all heard the expression PEP, progressive except Palestine, and it's being manifested and amplified. And I'm reminded of a piece of wisdom by Professor Ta-Nehisi Coates, where he was asked whether the Democratic Party can defend democracy in America. And he said, I would submit to you that a party that can't draw the line at genocide can't protect democracy either. And to me, this is such an emblematic reflection of the failure of the establishment wing of the party, right? 10 years into the Trump fiasco, what is the party's message? Are they anti-war? We don't know. No. Are they anti-corporate money? No. Are they pro-universal health care? No. Are they pro-labor rights? We don't actually know. And that's fundamentally the problem. I was pointing out how after we saw last Tuesday the massive success of progressive DSA candidates who are actual working families-focused candidates, that's what ignited the centrists to say we need to build a coalition to stop this from happening. Not 2016 when this fascist got into office, not 2020 when there was a literal insurrection, not 2024 when he got back into office. No, the idea that people-funded candidates running on universal health care, ending a genocide, and actually making sure that life is affordable, that's what inspired them. And so to me, all of that comes back to things like Gaza, because if you can't even pass that bar, I'm not going to trust you to pass any other bar here domestically. Whatever they are allowed to do, quote unquote, over there, is what's going to happen over here. And so to watch Oliver's campaign be unapologetic on this principle of human rights, this is the message that we need to get out there, that we are actually running for something, for the sanctity of this country, not just against Trump.
Yeah, and when you run for something, there's actually something to be excited about and ideals to get behind. And speaking of excitement, Donna, I'm seeing your name a lot in the chat. People are very excited for you to be joining, so I want to hand the mic over to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so pleased to be part of this call for Oliver. So I am one of so many members of South Florida's Jewish communities who are absolutely thrilled that Oliver's running for Congress. We are excited, and we have been putting our time, our energy, our resources into this campaign because, as we've been hearing, Oliver's integrity and his track record are exactly what we need. And we've been hearing about all the issues that, Oliver is so deeply committed to, racial and economic justice in so many different ways. On Palestine, he has stood against genocide and for justice for the Palestinian people without any equivocation, with such clarity. And that means so much. For me, as a Jewish person who stands solidly with the Palestinian-led movement for liberation, Oliver is a breath of fresh air, and his views reflect the growing sentiment, as we know, around the country, and I want to say including very much in South Florida. And that the fight for Palestinian liberation is deeply connected to all our struggles for justice and for collective liberation. So in terms of Oliver not just saying what he believes, but being there, anytime we are standing up against, Zionist organizations often think that South Florida is their backyard. So when the Anti-Defamation League comes to town, when the Jewish National Fund comes to town, we let them know that they are absolutely not welcome here. And Oliver is right there with us. So I just will say Oliver is a real mensch. We're ready for the kind of change that he can bring and will bring to Florida. We have seen tonight, we cannot underestimate the power of so many of our beautiful communities coming together and organizing for justice. And that includes doing whatever we can politically and financially to make sure that Oliver will represent us in the US Congress. And I'll just end with one little thing I was just thinking about. We talk about a good movement lawyer. And I was thinking, like a good movement lawyer, a good movement political leader is rooted in and accountable to the communities that are really out there organizing. And that's Oliver.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why this campaign is growing. That's why people are so excited right now, because we see the results of people power across the country, and this idea that, electability with some corporate dollars behind it is enough to squash the campaign of a real grassroots movement. That is just not the case anymore. And I think that's something that we can all be really excited about. I want to give everyone the opportunity as we're closing out this panel to jump in and see what everyone has been hearing. Maybe have friends been reaching out, talking about the campaign, saying, "Oh, I just heard about Oliver for the first time." Who's been reaching out to you? What have you been hearing? And how do you think that what's happening on the ground is really starting to resonate and be picked up nationally right now?
I'll say I appreciated Oliver going after Randy Fine and Rick Scott in DC and taking them to task. And I think it exemplifies what Donna was talking about, that we have someone who's actually going to be a fighter, not someone who's going to sit on their back foot and be comfortable that they've got a cushy job and free healthcare, but someone who's actually going to be out front and doing the work that needs to be done, that's going to be challenging folks in office and holding them accountable. And this is a bipartisan thing he's doing, right? He's taken Jared to task, By the way, is there anybody out there named Jared who's good? You've got Jared Kushner who's terrible. You got Jared the subway guy who's a pedophile. You got Jared Moskowitz who's pro-genocide. Like, I'm trying to find a good Jared out there. I'm sorry for the good ones out there, but your name has gotten a bad rap. This is an example of it. And so anyway, back to my point, Oliver's a fighter. And I'm appreciating and enjoying him take these corrupt politicians to task. This is why we need to get you in office, man. And that's what we're going to keep pushing.
Absolutely. Tariq, I want to give you the last word to jump in as well.
Hey, listen, I was in the Biden administration and resigned because of the genocide. I started a new policy to find and support candidates who would stand up for Palestinian human rights and who would fight against the corporate interests and the special interests that are trying to convince us that our eyes are lying to us. Oliver is that kind of candidate. If everyone here wants to support candidates that will oppose AIPAC, will oppose the Israel First lobby in Washington, D.C., they need to find a way to get Oliver's name out there. That means call your friends, talk to your neighbors, and that means donate, because that is what it's going to come down to. Oliver needs support because Jared is going to continue to see the corporate dollars roll in. And the only way that we stop that, they might have billionaires, they may have the corporations behind them. We have people, we have organization, we have real power. We have to make sure people know that this is a race worth investing in and a race that is winnable.
No, absolutely. And I think right now, especially with like Stephen Miller and Mike Johnson cutting ads for progressive candidates, talking about how terrible it would be to get Medicare for all or abolish ICE or make sure we pass a living wage, banning members of Congress from trading stocks, like all of these horrible things. Oliver, have you seen these clips and are you just like excited that kind of Mike Johnson is essentially running a campaign for you when he's talking about the boogeyman that is progressive politics?
Yeah, it shows the power of our movement, but it's not just because of me. It's because of the well over 1,000 DSA members nationwide and everyone that's mobilizing to elect candidates that share these common values of standing up for human rights and standing up for Medicare for all, a living wage, getting money out of politics. I mean, this is just fundamental to what so many Americans believe in. And when Mike Johnson and these Republicans that are completely bankrolled by the billionaire Epstein class, going out there, they represent such a small, narrow slice of the American people that I think they understand that their days are numbered. And with Donald Trump today saying that socialists running for Congress are the most dangerous threat to America, more so than both world wars and really everything that's happened in American
He just started
history.
listing stuff off. Yeah, it was a great clip.
But it goes to show, I mean, this is the transformative potential of our movement to transform our country for the better, to truly become a democracy that serves the working class with an economic bill of rights, with the New Deal aspiration that, really we just want to see continue for a generation and expand to include everybody in our society with one that is more equitable, one that is more inclusive. And I think that's what's been so inspiring about all of these campaigns we're seeing across the country. And we're simply carrying the torch and showing that it's possible in South Florida as well.
Absolutely. And it's going to take a lot of great leaders. Qasim, Tariq, Donna, thank you for being those leaders. And thank you for joining us on this panel. We have a new guest to bring onto the stream. William Popeye Osceola, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to just let you take it away.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Chintamo, I came here to just voice support for Oliver because I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of the issues we're facing in Florida are issues you find all across America. But there are some situations that are unique to us that I myself, as an indigenous person, a Miccosukee member, have had to deal with firsthand. And it's been somebody like Oliver who's actually been really receptive to the issues that we face. Because the issues that indigenous people face are issues that affect everybody. Like, we're at the forefront of climate change impacts, environmental rights issues, human rights issues. Recently, we had finally Alligator Alcatraz closed down. And I think you guys are well aware there are folks out here in Florida who are modeling themselves after the governor and the policies. And for me, that is just unacceptable. That is a violation of everything that's supposed to make us Americans. And I think, again, it's important that we support folks like Oliver, who, here we have people in the state who are prioritizing corporate and private interests over the citizens and public interests. And that's how we get all of these compacting issues, whether it's on the environment, the education, or our economy. They're all linked together. Just as an example, Oliver had reached out to me to ask about something like ITEC, Indigenous Traditional Ecological Knowledge. And that's not something we really get on a face-to-face policy level with representatives. Oftentimes it's their team. And who knows what happens to that information if it even gets to the person that it needs to. So I found Oliver to be a very receptive individual who actually wants to meet with the individuals in the state and find a way to move forward together.
Absolutely. And what was it that drew you to his campaign when y'all first connected?
Honestly, I got acclimated to a circle through protests at the Alligator Alcatraz facility. And from there, his team reached out to me, invited me to numerous events to speak to his folks, as well as Oliver himself, which to me, again, it's meant a lot. It shows that he's not just picking select individuals. He's trying to cast a wide net to see what impacts all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oliver, through these conversations, through the ability to meet people across the district, how have you been feeling over these past couple of weeks and months? Obviously, it's been an incredibly difficult time, but there is emergent hope. Have you seen that start to play out more in these conversations?
Yeah, and I think, I want to recall what Phil Agnew said during the Dream Defenders panel, that for so long, Florida has been a punchline for the rest of the country. And I think what we're showing is that Florida is actually a state that's worth fighting for. Every single community here, and I've been privileged to be outstanding in solidarity with Popeye, and had him actually speak at our Zoran Mamdani election night watch party last December. And he's been out on canvases with us in making the field pitches, and really also talking about the issues that affect every single Floridian. When Miccosukee land is the tribal sovereignty is being violated by this monument to xenophobia and racism in Alligator Alcatraz, when tribal land is being subjugated by the big sugar industry and the pollution of the corporate agriculture business, all South Floridians suffer. And I think really central to what we need to look for as a way forward for this country. When we talk about fighting climate change and passing a Green New Deal and transitioning our energy economy from to 100% renewable energy, we also need to have the conversation about the environmental restoration. It's not only about changing the energy economy, it's about how do we restore the sending the water south, the mangrove swamps, the coral reef ecosystems, the marine estuaries. How do we ensure that when South Florida is faced not only with invasive species that are decimating local populations, but also just water management issues, water quality issues, that the pine tree islands that dot the Florida Everglades that have been really just destroyed by the control of water management districts that are handpicked by Big Sugar. That affects every single Floridian that takes our water from the Biscayne Aquifer that is fed by the Florida Everglades and by Lake Okeechobee. So the interconnectivity of what we're building here, I think, is showing just how important it is to value every single member that is a part of this campaign, that's a part of this movement, that's a part of our South Florida community. And Popeye has shown such incredible leadership in really being a leader for Indigenous rights, but for every single South Floridian that truly has a stake in what we're all fighting for, which is a Florida that serves all of us, that treats working people with dignity, and really keeps us at the center and not the corporations and the billionaire class. So he's been really someone that I've learned from. He's been over to my apartment and helped me with public speaking. He's really been a partner, and someone who, I'm humble enough to admit that this wouldn't be possible. This campaign and this platform that we're building would not be possible without supporters like Popeye and everyone else that has taken a leading role in this campaign. And while before I pass it over, I do want to just continue to say these donations are so essential before our FEC deadline tomorrow, and more importantly, to begin the advertising that we need to reach South Floridians with this message. If you're feeling inspired, if you're inspired by the previous panel, if you're hearing perspectives that you don't typically hear from political campaigns and from activists in the state of Florida, contribute so that we can carry this message forward. Can we hit $54,000? Can we hit $55,000? And as we do, looking forward to, again, keeping this conversation going.
Absolutely. And Papa, I got one more question for you before we bring on another great guest, great panelist. What has been the number one, or maybe what are the kind of bundle of issues that when you're canvassing, you've been hearing people connect with the campaign most on right now?
Well, for us, it's basically being able to make a living, and so much is linked into that. And as I mentioned before, a lot of folks, they'll talk about the environment because now they're aware because of Alligator Alcatraz. So it's a good chance to kind of lump this stuff in because it's all the same thing really for us. Environmental rights are human rights. If you don't have anywhere to live, then what rights do you have as a human? So people have been really receptive to that. And I find Oliver, again, has been very open to learning. I mean, I used to be a teacher. So to find people, adults who are willing to learn is an amazing thing because adults think they know everything. And Oliver is very humble enough to realize there's a lot to learn. And he's been talking to a lot of people to see what there is to hear and learn about.
Yeah, it's been an incredible campaign. It's connected with people, of course, across South Florida, but around the country. And I think that's so incredible about what we're seeing with progressive campaigns right now, that it is this broader network of people wanting to come together. And I would ask folks in the chat right now, because I'm about to hand it off to Mike from PA. We're going to have a new host subbing in. But if anyone wants to help me out, Oliver, you said that you wanted to get to $55,000. And before I jump, I want to make a little donation. I wanted to donate $1,000 to the campaign tonight on the stream. So if we can help me get to that 54, I'm not holding anyone hostage. We're still going to make the donation, but I'd love to see the number. I'm going to do it right now as I jump. And Mike, as I'm hopping on my phone, I'll let you take things over. But if we could get another $90, that would be amazing so that we can, I want to put a smile on this man's face so that we can get to that 55,000. So I need the chat to help me out real quick.
Let's do it.
I don't want to say W's in the chat because I don't want W's in the chat, but I don't want to be Drake tonight, so that's okay. But if anyone can help me out, but Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stay on until I'm going to mute my mic, but I'm going to stay on until I see that number hit 55,000.
Well, what a day, Oliver, huh? It's been a huge day for socialist candidates all over the country. So I'm so excited to see your fundraiser did well. We did another fundraiser on my stream and Hasan's stream for Francesca Hong. And there are so many deserving people that are succeeding. So if we can get another 90 bones in this fundraiser, we'll be able to get a, what match is that? What's the math? 11 times match? Like, that's a pretty good value, you know? He's
there it is.
Waiting. He's waiting. Come on, chat. We're wringing every dollar we can out of everybody. So I must say that it's so gratifying to see all the pieces of our movement finally slotting together. You know, we have our online spaces where we spend a lot of time in discourse, and we have our organizing spaces where we're, you know, in our communities, and to link them all up into one like coordinated force. It's like a tidal wave that's going to wipe away all the forces of reaction within our society. So it's really exciting to see. Oh, well, it looks like you more than did it. Look at that. Look at that.
I'm waiting for mine to hit. The check cleared. I hope it didn't bounce or I'm in trouble. Oliver, I've given you my last dollar. No
refunds. No refunds.
Appreciate you, Jack. Yeah, no one needs to go broke supporting this campaign. Everyone give what you can. And hopefully folks can still hear me. This event is running so hot that I'm literally quitting stuff from my browser. I've got my computer battery, despite it being plugged in, is draining because there's so much energy flowing through the airwaves right now that I had to get rid of the Shure microphone. So with the trusty. This isn't a promotion, but I've got my sound here. So thank you everyone in chat. Thank you, Mike, for jumping on and for supporting amazing Democratic Socialist candidates like Francesca Hong, like Malat Quiros, who's up for election tomorrow in Colorado. If you're in Colorado, please turn out and vote tomorrow in the city and county of Denver for Malat. And, we're going to keep this momentum going and show all across the country that this is possible.
Does that say 55,000? Does that say 55,000?
It says $55,440.
Let's
go.
go.
That's pretty big. That's pretty huge.
Now I can leave in peace.
All right. Wow. Oliver, I'm glad you brought up the Denver race as well, because the reporting is that there's some fear in the District of Columbia. They're starting to quake as this tidal wave crests. And so that's why, I wanted to ask you, I think my audience understands this, but can you explain to the whole audience who are watching you from outside Florida, why is this race so important? Why should this matter to them? Can you explain the solidarity that the movement, the benefit of that solidarity for everybody in the country?
Yeah, I mean, this is fundamental to, if you want to see durable political change that really responds to the needs of working class people in this country, not just in the deep blue districts, but in purple districts, in red districts, in the places that the Democratic Party has given up on over the past several decades, then you have a reason to care about this race. Listen, this is perhaps the strongest contrast of any congressional primary in the country. On the one hand, you've got a former Bernie Sanders campaign organizer, organized a union in their workplace, an out and proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, primarying an incumbent with $1 million nearly in AIPAC funds, a self-described Ron DeSantis Democrat who voted for ICE with the Laken Riley Act and the letter of gratitude, who was the first Democrat joining DOJ, who recommended a private prison executive to lead a public university. How is this person calling themselves a Democrat? There has never been a stronger contrast in a state like Florida, in a race like ours. And if we prove that this is the direction that the Democratic Party is going, the doors are wide open. Wherever you live in the United States of America, it will prove that it is possible in your congressional district as well. And that's why I'm asking you, donate whatever you can. Let's hit that 6-7, and let's invest immediately in the voter outreach that we need. We've got 7 weeks to go tomorrow. Ballots are dropping 33 to 40 days before our election. That means by the end of next week, ballots are going to be in the mail. People are going to be making up their minds. They're making up their minds right now. And as Fox News and Newsmax is saying, should Jared Moskowitz be scared of running against a Democratic Socialist candidate in their primary? What's really going to make AIPAC and DMFI and all of Jared Moskowitz's pro-Israel backers that are allowing for this genocide and apartheid, this Jim Crow system in Israel to continue, what's really going to make them scared is when they see that there's a movement that is mobilizing behind our platform, with myself, with candidates like Claire and Chris Rabb and Daria Lisa and Malat and Francesca at every single level of government. It wasn't just the congressional candidates that won in New York City. It was Aber Kawas. It was Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. It was people up and down the ballot, a clean sweep. There's never been a better moment in this country's history to advance our policy agenda, to truly fight for working class issues. This is what the American people want to see.
I'm glad you brought all that up. I think people don't underestimate just how important Jared is to AIPAC. This would be like knocking out their great white hope. This is not just some politician that AIPAC supports in order to get their support on some bill or something. This is their guy. This would be plunging a dagger into the heart of AIPAC. This would be disrupting their entire pipeline of development. This would be a huge egg on their face, and it would put the fear of God into every single politician across the country that has taken AIPAC money. And there's rarely been an opportunity for us, for our movement, for Palestinian liberation, for democratic socialism, to put that fear in their hearts. And for me, that's a motivator, right? And this is a district that I believe, if you look at the precincts, Biden won. So it might be a dummy mander. Like during a wave year, this is an opportunity to actually sweep them out. So not only put a dagger in the heart of AIPAC, but to actually cause the Republicans to slip on a banana peel and actually win. And then furthermore, I think this is also another point that I think a lot of people need to understand, is that the only argument that they have left, the only argument that the centrist corporate Democrats have left is that, yeah, sure, you may be able to win in these bluer seats, DSA, but you need the moderates for the swing districts. So this seat right now, if we could demonstrate that having a bold progressive agenda is what the people want, we can actually destroy the single reed left for establishment politics for regular voters. Because I know Oliver, you've had this experience, and I'm sure we're going to be talking to Maria about the same experience, where people say, oh, I love this platform, I love what he stands for, but I'm worried about electability. Right? I'm worried about beating the Republicans, because I understand how they feel, which is we've got to beat the Republicans. We've got to beat them badly. And so this is a test case where we could say not only are our politics good policy, not only do they speak to the hearts of left-leaning people all over the country, but it's actually electorally wise to go left. It's actually the right decision if you want to beat down the right, if you want to, take this country off the precipice of fascism. So there you go, Oliver, which brings to mind another question that I have for you, which is, for everybody who's watching tonight, what is the single most useful thing they can do? And don't be shy. Tell me exactly what you need.
You can click the donate button, the donate now box in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Click one of the hyperlinked OFC_rally Act Blue links. Donate. I'm not going to mince words here. This is a movement. This is a campaign finance system, that requires your investment. We need public financing of elections. We need to overturn Citizens United. But what we've seen AIPAC and DMFI and AI and cryptocurrency dump into these races at the very last moment, the only reason that these progressive candidates, that these Democratic Socialist candidates have been able to withstand these attacks is because they've had a movement at their backs. And what we're trying to prove in South Florida is that it's possible here too, but we're not going to have all of the same institutional backers. So that requires the grassroots even more to expand the horizons of what progressive organizations believe they can invest in. It has to be led by the people first. So tomorrow is our last end of quarter FEC fundraising deadline of this primary election campaign. Everything that is donated before 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night, but do it now. Do it right now while you've got the energy, while you've got the good feels, while you see what this movement is able to do when we come together. Donate right now. That way, when we file our public FEC report, AIPAC and DMFI and Jared Moskowitz will look at it and say, oh my God, there's actually something happening in South Florida that we don't totally understand. We've seen these centrist politicians say that we need, our own army of door knockers and canvassers. They don't got it. We've got it. The movement is here. The people that are motivated and inspired by this message enough to go out and knock on doors, canvass, phone bank, it is because of our policy platform that we are standing on. Medicare for all, $25 an hour, a Green New Deal, universal childcare, paid family and medical leave, and investing in all of it by ending our endless catastrophic support for our own foreign wars or for what Israel is doing in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, across the Middle East. I need you. I'm asking you humbly to donate with extreme urgency. Let's hit this $60,000 mark next, and then let's hit the $67,000. When we do that, it is going immediately. It's barely touching the campaign account before it's going back out into communicating with voters, because the level of urgency here, we're operating on such a tight timeline. Malat Quiros was at 7% in the polls 2 months ago, okay? And she has leapt ahead of Diana DeGette because the movement mobilized behind her, and because as soon as voters are not, they're not political junkies like we are. They're not watching it every single day. But when they tune in and when they hear that, oh my God, someone is actually fighting for me and not AIPAC, they gravitate immediately. And what we saw in a poll that was just out today, our support has tripled in 1 month. Our support has tripled. We are going to the finish line, but I need the donations. The team needs the donations. And if we're going to win, this election and show that this movement is capable of winning anywhere in America, we need you to donate. So please give today. Give what you can.
So let's imagine that we pull this off and you are in DC, so January 2027, what are some of the tangible things that we would see in your first few months in Congress? What do you think is how you would want to make your stamp on the Congress after you're elected?
Yeah, I think we need a new formation on the left in the United States Congress. What we need is a Democratic Socialist in Office caucus that is going to stand apart from the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
Nice idea.
And what we've seen. Let's think about how the House Freedom Caucus members have been able to extract some real leverage from leader and then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. They put him through 15 rounds of speaker votes because they had concessions that they were seeking. They were not concessions that I agreed with, but they used their leverage. And what we have seen with increasingly narrow margins on both Republican and Democratic majorities in Congress in recent years is that a small but committed number of members of Congress can extract real material concessions for the working class when these must-pass annual budget reconciliation bills come up. When we saw Congresswoman Cori Bush sleeping on the steps of the Capitol building to advocate for an eviction moratorium during the COVID-19 emergency. That is the kind of activism, the radical, militant organizing that we need in office. We need more organizers in office. We need people that are not going up there to make friends. I don't care if I'm up there for one term. If I'm up there for one term representing a community like South Florida, it will show, like Congressman Jamal Bowman showed, one of our supporters. He didn't go up there and try to play it safe to tend to his district. Of course, he was tending to his district, but to tend to his elections. He was going up there to make a difference for the community that sent him there. And that is what I am doing, because I know exactly when we win this race, who is responsible for it. It is the members that are mobilizing all across our district, knocking on doors, making phone calls, many of whom you've heard from here tonight, and as well as all of you that are donating all across the country. So we need to form this bloc. We have a number of Democratic Socialists that are entering Congress to join the few that are in there currently. And I'm also going to be conducting the constituent well-being, the oversight that the Department of Justice is not doing by showing up at privately run ICE detention centers and conducting these wellness checks on every single one of our constituents, so that ICE's abuses and the abuses of the Department of Homeland Security are not being swept under the rug or being tied up in legislation that Donald Trump is never going to have any intention of signing. We need to be willing to show up. We need to be willing to organize and mobilize our communities. And that is how we're going to bring the pressure to bear to force Congress's hand to address the constitutional and civil rights abuses of this administration, but also respond to the material needs of the working class in this legislation that we're going to need to pass in the next budget reconciliation.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. People have called it a Democratic Tea Party or whatever, but I don't think that's an accurate descriptor, because the Tea Party was AstroTurf. That was from the billionaire class. The so-called Tea Party rant was made by a trader from the Chicago Commodities Exchange, and it was all about how they shouldn't bail out homeowners. Whereas our movement is from the grassroots. Our movement is about building institutions of power that are outside the Democratic Party, that are outside, just being absorbed into one campaign. I think one of the things that I've been really heartened by, from some of the DSA electeds, including one who came on this stream earlier, which was Claire Valdez, which is they are movement builders, right? It isn't just, okay, we had the Claire Valdez for Congress campaign and I won and now we dismantle it and it goes away. She's pouring those resources into building up institutions like DSA that will carry on beyond this campaign. So we're going to pick up volunteers. We're going to pick up, street knowledge. We're going to pick up relationships with our community, and that's going to persist even beyond this campaign. So you will be a movement leader, not just somebody who's trying to aggrandize themselves, which is something that is really unique in politics, at least in this country. So it's so great to see somebody who's really a party builder or an institution builder like yourself, Oliver, which I think, are we ready to bring on Maria, or do we need to vamp a little bit more? And the Miami DSA people.
I'm here.
Okay, are we here? All right, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so Maria Franzblau, is that correct?
Franzblau. Yeah, you're close. You're close. You're better than a lot of people.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I am so glad to bring you on to help talk about the ground game in the district. So I guess let me just start it off by asking, what is, Miami DSA and South Florida DSA doing to help Oliver win?
Well, I would say, and I'll say this applies to Miami DSA, to Broward DSA, to Palm Beach and Treasure Coast DSA, to Orlando and Tampa, all the different chapters of the Democratic Socialist of America that have endorsed this campaign. All of us are pouring in so much of our efforts into this campaign that when you look at it, whether it be the high-level staff, whether it be the volunteers, if you're looking at people working on this campaign, 9 times out of 10, you're looking at a DSA member. And, we all endorsed Oliver Larkin, and it's not just because he's a better candidate than Jared Moskowitz, or he's a lesser evil or anything like that, but it's because he's offering something special. It's because he's running as an open Democratic Socialist, because he supports Medicare for all, a $25 minimum wage, abolishing and prosecuting ICE, an arms embargo on Israel, and an end to the genocide in Gaza. That's why you're seeing all of this momentum, and why you're seeing us not just as individuals, but as a collective, organized, project, the makings of a party that we're able to, pool these resources together. So, it's like when you see DSA chapters like ours mobilizing members to knock on thousands of doors and make thousands of calls, that's not just energy that you're going to be seeing behind whatever, centrist slop candidates the Florida Democrats try to throw at you every 2 to 4 years. What you're seeing when our chapters mobilize is the DSA difference. What it means when you excite a base of people that are committed behind a particular movement, a particular ideology, and are willing to go out for free most of the time to be able to put, our blood, sweat, and tears into this campaign. So, that's how I would describe, what DSA's efforts have been in this campaign at the ground level.
Yeah, and I think that's actually really exciting stuff, and why this campaign is really unique, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess the question that all of us, maybe there's some people here who are used to like more traditional campaigns or progressive campaigns, and Oliver's, work that he's doing is like an evolution to the DSA way of doing it. So can you walk us through how the DSA is organizing to help win the race? Like, what is the DSA difference?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so I could just go right through it. So every Tuesday and every Thursday at 6 p.m., we have our phone banks where we call voters in the district about the need for a member of Congress, who's fighting for, the working class and for working class democracy and against the billionaire class. Every weekend, there are canvasses in Miami-Dade and Broward County and Palm Beach to knock on thousands of doors in the district. And so especially if you live in South Florida, you want to come down for a weekend, you can join us every Saturday and Sunday, morning and evening shifts. If anyone wants to spam the Mobilize link in the chat, now would be a good time to do so. And then, of course, every month, the South Florida DSA chapters, we all come together to hold what we call a DSA kickoff for Oliver, which is basically like one big all-day mega canvas, where instead of having so many on one day, we will pool all of our resources and all of our people towards a single big day. And we have a big mega canvas for the entire morning. We come back, we have lunch, we have a social, we chill out, and then we go right back out and have another big mega canvas for the entire afternoon. And when you show up to a kickoff or a canvas or a phone bank, whether it's officially a DSA event or whether it's under the auspices of just the campaign, you're probably going to see someone from DSA leading it, someone like myself or Tomas or Tyler or Janae or Jem, or if I try to name everyone, then I'm going to miss somebody, so sorry. But you're going to see a DSA member there, and we're probably going to be making a pitch to you about why you should join DSA in addition to volunteering for Oliver. And so, if you were to hear someone making such a pitch, it would probably sound something like the fact that we are DSA, the largest socialist organization in this country. We have 100,000 members. We are entirely membership funded, distinguishing us from many other organizations and nonprofits and consultancy groups and what have you. We are entirely democratic, run by our membership. And we have a record of winning. We're the organization that elected Zoran Mamdani. We're the organization that elected Claire Valdez and Daria Lisa. We're the organization that elected Chris Rabb and Rashid Tlaib. We're the organization that's going to elect Malat Kiros. And we're the organization that's going to elect Oliver Larkin. And so if you want to get on the winning team, you come over to us. And so,
sounds about right to me.
No, I'll hand it back to you. I'll get too much on my DSA cake.
Well, no, I mean, that draws to my, listen, I'm Mike from Pennsylvania, not Mike from Florida. So there is something that there's an elephant in the room, right? Mm-hmm. There's a stereotype about South Florida as kind of the place where all the exiles of socialism went, where the CIA is hatching CONINTELPRO, and every time there's a new attempt to invade the Bay of Pigs, it's launched from South Florida. So how do you guys organize for DSA at a place that is stereotypically considered to be hostile ground for the big scary word of socialism? And what has your experience been? Is that a stereotype that's totally wrong? Is there a group of people that are like that, but they're in the big minority? Can you clear that up for those of us that have only heard about South Florida through, the traditional media?
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat Florida at all, because, what I always like to say is that organizing in Florida means that we're organizing in hard mode. We have the second highest income inequality in the country. We have the most regressive taxation system, and Florida Republicans are now trying to make it even more regressive by eliminating property taxes. We have some of the most aggressive anti-trans laws, some of the most repressive union busting laws. And, we know that there's a lot of basis for, why people have this vision of Florida. But something that I think is wrong about that is that people kind of treat this as if, the situation is an inevitability or it's just our fate, when really, when you look at it, it's a product of several political failures by our political establishment, namely the Florida Democratic Party. You look at, let's say, 2014, a lot of people don't know this, but there was poll after poll that was showing that the Cuban American community in Florida was opposed to continuing the embargo on Cuba. And that was around when, President Obama was doing normalization with Cuba. Did the Florida Democrats use that to press the advantage and push the Overton window to the left? No, they instead tried to outflank Republicans from the right. You look at the 2018 Florida gubernatorial race.
And it totally backfired.
Oh, and it did. It absolutely did. They haven't been winning. You look at the Florida gubernatorial race in 2018, you get, the closest that the Democrats have gotten to the governor's mansion, and so in a generation, was with a Black progressive candidate endorsed by Bernie Sanders and Dream Defenders. And, in response to that, basically the Democrats ever since then have been running cops, Republicans, Zionists and centrists and getting their ass handed to them. And so,
Right.
for as much as this is like, a state that has seen a shift to the right, we need to recognize that this isn't our fate and it isn't just something that happened out of nowhere. I kind of believe that the idea that Florida is a lost cause is a myth sold to us by losers. And it really is time for us to start winning again, taking the initiative and trying to build working class democracy, right here, because Florida's worth fighting for. We can't abandon this. I was born and raised here. I don't want to leave South Florida. And I think we have a real chance to win here and raise a lot of people's hopes of what's possible in the state.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I just want to say that, the strategy of move to the right, try to outflank the Republicans on foreign policy or try to outflank the Republicans as the actual opposers of Latin American pink tide has failed utterly. Right. And what's happened is Florida went from the premier swing state to now pretty much a safe Republican seat until we try something new. And I feel like there is a huge opportunity with your guys' bold position on things like the Gaza genocide to kind of shake off the doldrums of the centrist Democratic sinking ship and move on to something that's bold and gets people excited again. So thank you guys so much for all your organizing effort. Keep burning that shoe leather. I want to see you guys. I want to see the bottom of your shoes at the end of this campaign with big holes in them. All right. So thank you guys so much for inviting me. I'm so glad to have been able to be a part of this. And just one more call. If any of my chatters are still awake, because we're the early morning crew. So maybe we'll see if any of my chatters are still awake. Go ahead, throw a few more bucks to Oliver. And with that, I'm going to hop off and hand this back over to Oliver. Thank you so much for having me. And we will be back for you all year long.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Maria. Thank you truly to every single person that made tonight's stream go so incredibly well. If you were on camera, if you were behind the scenes, if you were in chat, if you were donating, if you were sharing on social media, this is what it's going to take from now until August 18th and on to November 3rd in the general election. This is what it is going to take to build this movement in South Florida. And just as a point of personal privilege, I was so inspired by our special guest, Senator Nina Turner, and I just wanted to remark on Senator Turner had some amazing quotes. One that she didn't mention, but that has always stuck with me, and that I think is really a testament to this campaign. Is Senator Turner told me back probably a decade ago when we were working together at Our Revolution that in a room full of thermometers that can read the temperature in a room, be the thermostat that sets the temperature. And that was the decision that I made along with our DSA chapter very early on in this campaign with someone like Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who is a self-described Ron DeSantis Democrat, who is the only Florida Democrat who voted for the Lake and Riley Act, who is the first Democrat in the United States Congress who joined the Doge caucus and manufactured this bipartisan consent for what Elon Musk has done to the government, for what Donald Trump has done with this illegal war with Iran. There was a choice that we could have made to just run as the more progressive alternative, but not truly reflecting what I feel and what I've waited for over a decade to see reflected in the kind of candidate that I wanted to see in South Florida, that I know so many of my comrades in DSA and so many of my friends and family who I grew up with here in the city of Fort Lauderdale have wanted to see, from the inspirational aspect that our politics can offer, when it is a politics that is grounded in equity, in our humanity, in our shared values for economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. This is what this movement is building. So what I would humbly submit to you is that if you're still hanging around and you haven't donated, please, please, please hit that donation button. We are 25 hours from our final FEC end of quarter fundraising deadline, 25 hours for FL25. Donate $25, donate whatever you can afford. Or if you've donated already, we've got 25 hours to get your friends and family to pitch in if they weren't able to participate in the stream tonight. If you know someone, I know everyone knows somebody that wasn't able to be here tonight that would be so inspired by what we were able to organize. So get them to donate, get them to watch this, get them to share what their message has been. As we've sat here, we've received the endorsements of the Dream Defenders, of SEIU, FPSU, a public sector union representing 20,000 working class Floridians. And as a union organizer myself, and we had Assembly Member Claire Valdez, soon to be Representative Claire Valdez, another union organizer. This is the organizing culture, as we heard from our Miami DSA co-chair, Maria, who, along with myself, has knocked on hundreds of doors. I've thrown out probably a dozen pairs of socks on this campaign because I'm wearing through the soles on Saturdays and Sundays, talking to our neighbors. That is all that our politics needs to be, is just having the conversations. It's not the think tanks. It's not taking the party line because of what some corporate donor is going to tell you. It is talking to the people in your community and then going to represent them in Washington, D.C. And don't let whatever the corporate media tells you about South Florida get in the way of what we're building every single day here, which is when you go up to a voter's door, more than half of Floridians are considering leaving the state due to the cost of living and affordability crisis. More than 3/4 of Floridians want to see an end to unconditional military aid to Israel's genocide in Gaza and apartheid system in the West Bank. We want a politics that is predicated on our common humanity, on Medicare for all, on a $25 an hour minimum wage, as Sara with One Fair Wage was expressing. As someone who worked in a restaurant as a line cook over a hot grill before I went to New Hampshire to volunteer for Bernie Sanders, we need a Democratic Party and we need representatives in Congress that are going to speak to the material needs that when someone who has never voted before in their life hears what we are talking about, they say, oh my God, he's talking to me. And that's how I felt when I got inspired by politics. And that's what I hope you feel as we are talking to you about your life, about the stress you feel, about the precarity that you feel, about, why is it so hard to just aspire to the things that we are all raised to believe in, of owning a home, of having a family, of having childcare that is affordable, of being able to aspire to get a higher education and then get a good paying job. Why is all of this so hard? It doesn't need to be so hard. These are choices that our politicians in Washington, D.C. make. And far too often, those choices are predicated upon the corporate PAC donations that they rely on for their elections and the congressional stock trading that they use to supplement their incomes, which is why we're rejecting all of it. We're standing up for our common humanity. We are standing up for South Florida, and we're standing up for the United States of America. And I'm here standing with you. This campaign only goes as far as the next person who's willing to support it. I'm just one person. Before this campaign started, I was never someone who thought about running for office. I was moved by moral conscience after Jared Moskowitz faced no primary opposition in 2024. And then did the things that he has done for the last 2 years. After the 2024 election, I looked at my wife, Sandra, and I said, we need to volunteer for whoever runs against Congressman Moskowitz, as he was blaming progressives for why we lost the 2024 election, as he was joining Doge. And then I waited 6 months, I waited 7 months, and I waited 8 months. And by the 8th month, by June of last year, I said, oh my God, if I don't do this, I don't think anyone else is going to. And what you see with the power of what we were able to do tonight is just how ready people are for just ordinary people to stand up and say, enough is enough. We are ready to take our country back from the two-party system that has failed us. We are ready for a Democratic Party that truly knows who it fights for, the working class, the labor roots of this party that we are proudly touting as we campaign in South Florida. And it is not possible without your support. So solidarity, one and all. I'm making one final pitch to hit that donation button and to share it with your friends and family. We've got 25 hours to go before our deadline. And y'all, we hit the $50,000 goal that was set on this bar when the evening started. And we're going to continue pushing, not just to hit a number, but to reach the voters that we need to reach to win this campaign on August 18th. Thank you all so much for everything tonight. And we've got some videos to play us out. And please stick around for those. They are a treat. Solidarity of everyone.